Chapter 1342. However, 800 years ago the Red Cloud ancestor suddenly retreated and disappeared. Some people said that he was in closed-door training and some even said that he had passed away. However, when his name was mentioned it would still be mentioned like a legend. It could be said that his might suppressed an entire era, his name remaining in this place for more than 1,000 years. How could they not be shocked when such a brilliant ancestor, such a legendary figure, and such a living fossil who had experienced the vicissitudes of life appeared in front of them? Ancestral patriarch Xianxia, a third-level nascent soul cultivator, only a step away from the mid-stage. But he's too old and his blood essence is almost dried up. Jiang Tian rolled his eyes in an infuriating manner. Then he smiled coldly in a mocking manner. Kong Teichu, you're indeed arrogant. What if I, Duanmuguang, join you? As soon as he finished speaking, an old man with white hair and a white beard and an awe-inspiring temperament slowly rose from 1,000 miles away. He swayed his body and the mountains and the earth didn't seem to exist under his feet. It was as if he was taking a stroll in the park. He easily shrunk the ground into inches, broke through space and arrived before Jiang Tian in just a few steps. The fourth nascent soul heavenly lord. Everyone was stunned. All of them were moved and dumbstruck. A nascent soul heavenly lord was extremely rare, even in the third-level worlds such as Jade Lake and Dragon Gate. Only a family with a nascent soul cultivator could be independent of the world and last for thousands of years, with a long history and dare to be called a noble family. Every heavenly lord on the Jade Lake was in charge of a large sect or a powerful country. Everyone from ordinary people to cultivators and beasts had to listen to their orders. They were the supreme overlords of a region. The heavenly lords were so powerful because they were powerful. They could hold up the sky with one hand, shake the earth with one punch and summon the wind and rain. They had the power to topple mountains and overturn seas. They were respected by billions of people. Now for nascent soul heavenly lords had gathered in the Chia world. If this news were to spread, it would definitely cause a huge commotion and leave people dumbfounded. What's the meaning of this? Why are there so many overlords from Jade Lake? Even ancestral patriarch Xianxia has come to help. Many Qi cultivators were shocked. Originally, Huang Qianzhong's intention was to remain neutral and not help either side. Only the Jade Lake's envoys were allowed to enter, but the Jade Lake's army wasn't allowed to enter or pass through. At the same time, many Heavenly Stars refugees were also taken in. But now that didn't seem to be the case at all. After all, the arrival of these nascent soul cultivators was equivalent to an army of hundreds of thousands. Kong Teichu, the truth is that the Jade Lake heavenly monarchs settled here after learning of Patriarch Binding Sun's death. Huang Qianzhong's eyes flashed with a trace of pride as if victory was already in his grasp. However, His Majesty Emperor Qing has ordered that the Qi world must not be made public and remain neutral on the surface. In this way, in order to further stabilize the rear, you will definitely come to the Qi world to ally with us. At that time we will catch a turtle in a jar. How is it? Are you surprised that you've fallen into such a deadly trap? Are you trembling? By then 4 nascent soul heavenly monarchs, Hu Shi, Shin Jingjing, Huang Hongxia and Duanmuguang, had arrived and floated around Wanyu blessed land. Their vast dharma powers intertwined in the air and trapped Jiang Tian like an inescapable net. The 3 Jade Lake heavenly monarchs and ancestral patriarch Xiao are here to fight with the Star Lord Kong Teichu. What? Is this real? Let's go and see. A battle between heavenly monarchs hasn't happened in the Qi world for 1,000 years. 4 nascent soul cultivators are here this time. This is the most brilliant battle in 1,000 years. At this moment, countless Qi cultivators had heard the news and rushed over to watch the battle. This is a high-level battle. We can't miss it. The nascent soul heavenly monarchs are very helpful for us to understand the laws of heaven and earth and improve our cultivation. They can even help us reach the limit. Let's go. Let's go and see. Even some old monsters who were living fossils had ended their blood condensation and lifespan stoppage, or urgently broke out of seclusion and walked out of their seclusion grounds. They stepped on their flying swords and turned into sky-shocking rainbows. For a time, many sect masters, city lords and even nobles came to the Crimson Wild World. In less than half an hour, the area within 100 miles of warm jade-blessed land was filled with thousands of cultivators. Foundation establishment cultivators were everywhere, and there were also quite a few golden core true immortals. Every single one of them had a noble status and held great authority. They were terrifying existences that looked down upon the world and made billions of living beings look up to them. Everyone was shocked to see that. The 4 nascent soul stage cultivators were all exuding energy like dragons soaring into the sky. Even though they didn't do it intentionally, they naturally exuded a vast amount of mana that filled up an area of 10 miles, causing the ground to tremble and drowning the entire area. The power of the nascent soul stage swept across the area like waves crashing onto the shore. Under their terrifying energy, Prince Huangqi and the others felt as if there was a 10,000-ton gate on their chests. They couldn't breathe and their faces turned pale. Many early-stage golden core cultivators knelt on the ground and called them heavenly monarchs. Their disciples greeted them respectfully and bowed to them. Right then, those nascent soul heavenly monarchs were like ancient deities in their eyes. Their powerful energy even changed the color of the world. This is the power of the nascent soul overlords. They've already touched the edge of the laws of heaven and earth. They can form a forbidden area. Once they say something, the laws will follow. Even the sacred fire venerable narrowed his eyes, revealing deep reverence as he looked at the 4 figures in the sky that seemed capable of holding up the sky. It was too difficult to cultivate a nascent soul overlord. He had been a perfected golden core cultivator for hundreds of years and only formed a nascent soul a few days ago with the help of the supreme resources in Wanyu blessed land. But even so, it was only a high-level golden core cultivator. It was just a golden core that had the shape of a nascent soul, but it was still a solidified true essence. His essence, chi, and spirit had not completely merged and could not be considered a second life. If he really wanted to enter the nascent soul realm, he would have to use countless heavenly treasures, spirit pills, and precious medicines. Only then would he have a chance of entering the nascent soul realm. The difficulty of entering the nascent soul realm was even greater than ascending to the heavens. Reverend Holy Flame naturally understood this. But when he felt the overwhelming energy of the nascent soul overlords again, his heart was still burning. Although he couldn't do it, he yearned for it. I thought I could surpass my father by surrendering to the Jade Lake and taking over the Stellar Sky domain. But it turns out that they've already reached an agreement. Turns out that this negotiation is just a trap. The nobles, ministers, and even Lord Shenhua were just bait to lure Kong Teichu here. Huang Qi murmured in a low voice as he came to a realization. But in the next moment he straightened his body as if he had obtained a great support, and once again became arrogant and mocked. You're so arrogant. Ding ling dang for nascent soul overlords, now you know the foundation of the Jade Lake. Now you understand how stupid you are to follow Kong Teichu. He flicked his sleeves and said arrogantly as if he was looking at ants. How about it? Consider my suggestion. Kneel down and beg for mercy. Be my slave and warm my bed. Then I'll spare your life. This is your backer? They had great confidence in Jiang Tian, almost superstitious and worshipful. Ding Ling Dang shook her head in disdain. Her face was full of mockery as she snorted. You will understand the power of the absolute beginning senior. They are definitely no match for the absolute beginning dominator. But unfortunately you have no chance to repent. Because you will all die. You will die in despair and begging for mercy. However, at this time, Lei Bao showed a deep fear. He could no longer be arrogant. His tongue was tied as he said, he stammered, Absolute beginning senior, the enemies are too strong. Why don't we retreat first and fight with them? Xin Jiuling was trembling on the ground under the pressure of the violent heavenly lords. He wanted to cry but had no tears. He cursed Lei Bao's ancestors 18 times in his heart. What a scam. Leisun, why did you have to show off? Why didn't you just stay in the sect? Why did you have to bring me to such a dangerous place? At this moment he couldn't wait to run away. However, the heavenly might of the nascent soul stage cultivators outside was too terrifying and tough. They could easily tear him into pieces and crush him into pieces. He wouldn't even have a chance to escape. Brother Absolute Beginning, don't worry. We can go back to the Imperial Thunder Sect first and then defeat them one by one. Zhang Qianlei said with his immortal will. He had a rough and violent personality and was not afraid of death. But after coming to the Dimension World he had to admit that there was always someone better than him. The overlords in the Dimension World were too powerful, especially the nascent soul overlords who were terrifying. At this time they hadn't attacked yet. They just stood quietly in the air and the energy they released crushed everyone's bones. In his opinion, Jiang Tian was only a golden core cultivator. He could kill a peak-stage golden core cultivator, but there was a huge gap between him and a real nascent soul cultivator. In the face of such a peerless situation, Zhang Tian should avoid them, save his strength and increase his power before killing them. As the saying goes, revenge is a dish best served cold. Aha, you don't know the power of the absolute beginning dominator. Bai Zai formed a hand seal and his dantian rumbled. He formed a shield with his dharma power protecting Ding Ling Dang and the others. He said with a teasing smile, the dominator will conquer the universe in the future. 4 nascent soul cultivators are nothing to him. Then Bai Zai released his true essence and showed his strength. Qi Yi and Yao Qi finally realized that there was another nascent soul cultivator there. Is it Bai Zai? Crown Prince Huangqi, Supremacy Shenhua and the others were stunned, but the next moment they showed disdain and shook their heads. It's useless. It's useless no matter who comes. He's also here to die and can't change the situation. I didn't expect him to follow us here. It's a good time to kill him. After tonight's battle, the stellar sky domain will be completely removed and become a colony of Yao Qi and Qi Yi. Chapter 1343. They weren't the only ones who thought so. As a matter of fact, at this moment, almost all of the Qi Yi and Jade Lake cultivators thought that Zhang Tian would either lower his head and admit defeat, or flee at the sight of the wind. Kang Teichu is no match for the 4 nascent soul heavenly lords. At this moment, if he still has a brain, he should lower his head and surrender. Then he should go to the Jade Lake world and kneel in front of Emperor Qing and beg for mercy. That might be able to appease the Azure the Arch. Indeed. If he stubbornly resisted, only death would await him. But it won't be as simple as killing him. His Majesty the Azure the Arch is enraged. He will definitely slaughter cities and countries, killing all living beings in the heavenly star realm and the earth realm. Hallowed Sacred Flame, Crown Prince Huangqi, and the others all wore smug and mocking smiles. Is this the deadly trap you were talking about? A bunch of old bones with 1 foot in the coffin want to kill me? Zhang Tian stepped out of the pavilion and faced the 4 nascent soul heavenly lords. He put his hands behind his back and smiled. He put his hands behind his back and said, in fact, I'm going to attack the Jade Lake and kick your heads around. Since you're so sensible, you took the initiative to deliver your heads to me to chop off. This saves me the trouble of looking for you. After hearing what he said, everyone went silent. Everyone opened their mouths in shock, as if they were looking at a lunatic staring at Zhang Tian's back. How dare you? Xin Jingjing's charming face was filled with murderous intent, and her long, shapely eyebrows stood up as she shouted coldly, today I'll definitely grind your bones to dust and take revenge for my Langhe. You're just a frog at the bottom of a well. How dare you kill the heir of the Duanmu family? This enmity cannot be washed away even with all the water in the 3 rivers. Today I will kill you. Duanmu Guang also shouted. Today I'll use your blood and life to comfort the souls of the cultivators in Jade Lake. Ancestral Patriarch Xianxia shook his head with a hint of regret in his eyes. Indeed. For Zhang Tian to be able to cultivate a golden core in a small place like the Earth Realm, and it was even a high-grade golden core, he could be said to be an extremely talented person. However, he was still ignorant. He didn't know how terrifying a nascent soul heavenly lord was and the huge gap between a golden core cultivator and a nascent soul cultivator. Against 4 original leveled cultivators, he still wanted to put up a fight. He had no chance of winning. This would only result in an even more miserable death. Kill. As for the hot-tempered Hushi, he didn't waste any words. His eyes were cold as he swung his long saber and slashed out. Tila. In an instant, a forbidden blade domain was formed. In this forbidden area, the Yuanqi of heaven and earth was controlled by Zhang Tian. Strands of killing aura burst out of thin air, carrying the image of a blade and killing intent, and filled the area of 100 meters around Zhang Tian, rolling like a tide rushing towards him. These space-killing lights were not condensed chi forms or avatars. They were a type of forbidden domain and belonged to the category of space attacks. The killing aura was as light and translucent as a glass crystal. It flickered with multicolored light and was extremely beautiful. But in fact, every single one of them was extremely terrifying. They were extremely sharp and seemed to be able to cut the sky and split the earth open. The killing aura slashed and slashed randomly, shattering the space easily. Large areas of space were shattered. No divine power, cultivation art, or golden core avatars were able to withstand a single blow. Wuxia had comprehended the dharma of the long saber and used it as a foundation to control the space and form the long saber forbidden blade domain. It could cut through space and destroy everything. Another forbidden blade domain. But Zhang Tian was calm and relaxed. He even took a sip of the thunder fire wine with a look of disdain. A real forbidden blade domain directly controlled the dharma of space. Like ancestral patriarch Binding Sun, Wuxia only controlled the dharma of the long saber and used it to activate the yuan qi of heaven and earth to form a forbidden blade domain. Right now, Zhang Tian was relying on the chaos divine disc to divide the golden core into the Si calming, Kun Ping and Tao Tai returning to origin. Although it was only an innate ability, what it controlled was the true space law, which was confinement, shattering and devouring. It was also a true forbidden area. Zhang Tian wouldn't take him seriously. Die. Duanmu Guang also attacked and clapped his hands. In his dantian, which had evolved into a spirit embryo, his green nascent soul roared at the sky. Instantly, an endless amount of green qi rolled out and filled the area. Even his hair was dyed green. Boom. A cyan-colored rolling wood appeared out of thin air and fell from the sky, smashing towards Zhang Tian's head from the sky. This perfectly straight rolling wood was sparkling and translucent, overflowing with green, verdant and replete with moisture, as if it was carved from jade. It smashed down like a giant pillar that supported the heavens, also a type of restricted region blasting space to pieces. He had comprehended the dharma of Duanmu, which could freeze the wood element vital qi. A green dharma of Duanmu could crush mountains and destroy giant cities. Sigh. If you were given 100 years of time, you might be able to compete with us, but now? Ancestral Patriarch Red Cloud shook his head regretfully. But his attack was still ruthless and merciless. He waved his sleeve at Zhang Tian. Under his sleeve, red light filled the air and surged like a tide. The red cloud seemed to be formed by the rising sun. It was dazzling and beautiful, making people feel warm. It was like a giant piece of red jade stuck to the sky. What a beautiful red cloud. In the distance, a cultivator sighed with intoxication. There were even some cultivators who forgot that this was an earth-shattering battle. They were in a daze and couldn't help but fly towards the red clouds. However, as soon as these cultivators came into contact with the red light, they instantly turned into skeletons. Their flesh and blood seemed to have evaporated. Voila, in the end, even their bones turned extremely dark and shattered into fine powder. Oh no, it's dangerous. Come back. Many people only realized the danger and terror when they saw this. Even some Foundation establishment cultivators who accidentally came into contact with the red light screamed and immediately chopped off their own arms to save their lives. Blood splattered everywhere as they quickly retreated. Da-da-da-da. Is this the power of a nascent soul? It's too scary. A red cloud can kill a Foundation establishment cultivator and severely injure a golden core cultivator. How terrifying is that sea of red clouds that overflows the heavens, boundless and endless. Countless cultivators who were watching felt their teeth chatter. They stepped on their flying swords and retreated 100 miles in the air. They scanned with their divine consciousness from afar or watched with the help of projection dharma artifacts. In fact, those dead cultivators were all from the Qi world. But Ancestral Patriarch Red Cloud did not even look at those corpses and bones. He only focused on controlling the red clouds to envelop Zhang Tian. At his level, he was high above and looked down on billions of living beings. His Tao heart was already as hard as iron and as stable as a rock. He regarded human lives as nothing. In this world, there was nothing that could move him. The deaths of a few cultivators and mortals could not cause any ripples in his heart. Count me in two. Xin Jingjing's clear eyes were filled with killing intent. With a shout, the 1,000 black tails swayed and swept across the sky, filling up the entire area and moving towards Zhang Tian. This was not a Dharma idol but a forbidden zone. Moreover, it was born from her bloodline and was blessed by the heavens. It was even stronger than Patriarch Binding Sun's forbidden zone. Under the encirclement and entrapment of the 1,000-tail forbidden region, Zhang Tian seemed as if he'd been bound by numerous supreme divine chains, and it was like he'd been shackled by shackles that were heavy like mountains. His magic energy, divine ability, Dharma idol, and even the surrounding space had been confined, and it seemed as if he was utterly unable to struggle free. She wanted to lock Zhang Tian up and turn him into a defenseless little rabbit, allowing them to do whatever they wanted to him. Can he withstand the attacks of 4 nascent soul cultivators? At this moment Zhang Qianlei, Lei Bao and Shen Jiuling were all terrified and their hearts sank. Be careful, Lord of the Taichu sect. It was even to the extent that Ding Lingdong's pretty face had become very serious, and she was worried for Jiang Tian as she muttered to herself. Her eyes were slightly red, and her pair of beautiful eyes stared unblinkingly at Jiang Tian's figure in the air. Her exquisite and delicate body trembled slightly, and her tightly clenched fists once again. Kong Taichu is trapped by the Thousand Tails Forbidden Area and can't even move. Does he really think he can challenge the 4 heavenly lords? He's dreaming. Crown Prince Huang Qi sneered as he looked at Ding Lingdang, his eyes filled with greed as he secretly swore in his heart. This woman is so proud. After I kill Kong Taichu, I'll take her body tonight and pamper her in 18 different ways. The Thousand Tails Forbidden Area is locked down, the Long Knife Forbidden Area is filled with murderous aura, the Duanmu Forbidden Area is suppressing from above, and the red glow corrodes the Forbidden Area to reinforce. This is an inescapable trap. Kong Taichu is doomed today. Venerable Xinghua felt dizzy as he watched. His mind was wandering as he sighed deeply. When the 4 nascent soul heavenly lords attacked together, their power wasn't just increased by 4 times. It was increased by dozens of times. Even a peak stage nascent soul cultivator or soul formation grand cultivator would be flustered and exhausted. The Thousand Tails Forbidden Area of the Black Fox can trap everything. I don't think Kong Taichu can break through it. Huang Qianzhong's royal aura was monstrous and his aura was solemn. Like a peerless heavenly sword, he stood proudly in the void, overlooking the entire continent. You've all touched some kind of law of heaven and earth and learned a forbidden area. Although it's only a fake one, it's still very rare. Jiang Tian sighed with a leisurely expression. Not every nascent soul cultivator could learn a forbidden area. Even Fiend Ancient Lake in Tunguska couldn't cast it. And yet, Jiang Tian had to sneak an attack and use the Dinghai Pearl, the Darkest Stone Tablet and many other deity artifacts to win. A few days ago, Jiang Tian had even killed Ancestral Patriarch Binding Sun because Ancestral Patriarch Binding Sun's forbidden area could only freeze a small area of space and the essence qi of heaven and earth. It was still a far cry from Jiang Tian's forbidden area. And yet those 4 were different. They had already turned the forbidden area into an attack. In terms of power, they were comparable to normal mid-stage nascent soul cultivators and were much more powerful than Ancestral Patriarch Binding Sunday. If Jiang Tian hadn't formed the chaotic divine disc golden core, Jiang Tian would have had to run away and he would only have a 50% chance of winning. Unfortunately, I've already formed the chaotic divine disc and mastered many laws. I can change my divine powers at will. You're dreaming if you want to kill me. Facing the endless waves of forbidden zones, the divine light in Jiang Tian's eyes suddenly skyrocketed. Within his dantian, the primal chaos divine disc rumbled as it rotated. Chapter 1344. Tao Tai returns to its essence. Everyone was shocked to see that. The forbidden zone of 1,000 tails, which seemed to be able to sweep the heavens and bind the stars, suddenly collapsed and turned into black light ribbons that surged towards Jiang Tian's dantian. At this moment, a palm-sized black whirlpool appeared in Jiang Tian's dantian, and it continued to expand, quickly becoming a kilometer in circumference. It was like a deep black hole and it possessed a vast and boundless suction force. The black vortex was like a whale sucking in water and the black light ribbons quickly disappeared. The forbidden zone was more powerful than the Dharma form and was difficult to control. It was the result of the refinement of a cultivator's essence, qi and spirit, and the fusion of the nascent soul. When a cultivator used the forbidden zone, all of his essence, qi and spirit were activated. To be exact, it was activated with the nascent soul. The forbidden zone and the nascent soul were closely connected. Once the forbidden zone was suppressed and controlled by the opponent, the nascent soul would be severely injured or even controlled by the opponent. Pfft. At this moment, Xin Jingjing's face turned pale and then flushed. She spat out a mouthful of blood and the black fox-shaped nascent soul was almost pulled out of her body. She flew uncontrollably towards Jiang Tian. Ah! She screamed in horror and pain as her delicate body rushed through Red Cloud Old Ancestor's Red Mist Forbidden Domain and Hushi's long saber-killing light Forbidden Domain. She was instantly killed and corroded until she was dripping with blood and her flesh was torn open. Her supreme protective Dharma robe had been corroded into pieces by the forbidden domain, leaving only a small black undergarment, revealing her exquisite curves and large patches of snow-white skin. Once Zhang Tian made a move, his speed was too fast. In the blink of an eye, Xin Jingjing fell into Zhang Tian's hand. At this time the other 3 forbidden zones had not attacked yet. How could this be? Stop. Hu Shi and the other ancestral patriarchs were shocked and hurriedly stopped the forbidden zone. At this moment, everyone was dumbfounded. Even though Zhang Qianlei had heard from Bai Zhe that Zhang Tian was very strong and was mentally prepared, he still stood there in a daze. He couldn't believe it and immediately felt sour in his heart. He was afraid that he would never be able to catch up to him again. After witnessing Zhang Tian's power outside the border city, Bai Zhe and Ding Lingdang were relatively calm, but they also took a deep breath. Too strong. He broke a nascent soul forbidden zone with a snap of his fingers. As for Lei Bao and Xin Jiuling, their eyes almost popped out of their sockets. They were scared out of their wits. Only the true dragon patriarch knew how terrifying Zhang Tian was. He was also a nascent soul realm cultivator, but he probably couldn't even withstand one move from Zhang Tian, so he didn't show much emotion. Venerable Xinghua, Crown Prince Huang Qi, Huang Qianzhong, and the other cultivators of Jade Pool and Qi were dumbfounded as they stared at Zhang Tian's figure in the sky, unable to speak for a long time. Meanwhile, Hu Jingjing's slender neck was tightly grasped by Zhang Tian's hand. She was completely naked and only her tube top covered her pair of proud breasts. She had the Black Fox bloodline, so she was tall and slim. She was born to be seductive and extremely seductive. Right then there was fear in her eyes and tears ran down her cheeks. She trembled like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. Against the backdrop of the boundless wasteland and the dusky sky, it revealed a kind of desolate allure, an extremely sad beauty, a moving weakness and loneliness. Seeing this scene, everyone was extremely shocked. They had heard that Kong Teichu was very powerful, but no matter how powerful he was only a golden core cultivator after all. How could he fight with a nascent soul cultivator? However, Zhang Tian didn't even attack. He just spun the divine disc and his dantian rumbled. He broke a forbidden zone and captured Heavenly Lord Hu Jingjing, which made them feel as if they had fallen into a nightmare. Duanmu Guang was enraged and shouted, "Kong Teichu, let her go and we'll spare your life." Seeing that Zhang Tian was unmoved, he took a deep breath and hurriedly gritted his teeth. "As long as you're willing to let go of Jingjing, we'll let bygones be bygones. As long as you hand over Earth, you and your family and friends can go to the Jade Lake and enter the Tiandao sect. You'll also have a chance to become the disciple of Emperor Qin Qing. Of course, if you don't trust the Tiandao sect, we can also send you to other dimensions. We'll give you unlimited resources and help you reach the nascent soul level as soon as possible. Besides, we'll treat the creatures on Earth well and live in harmony with them." At this moment he offered many conditions in succession. Could be said that he was making extreme concessions. When he said these words he felt deeply humiliated. He was a nascent soul heavenly lord and his descendant had been killed, but he couldn't take revenge. Instead he had to lower his head and make peace with his enemy. More importantly, his enemy was only a first-level golden core cultivator, which was even weaker than his disciples. But he had no other choice. Xin Jingjing was also an important person in the Jade Lake. She was a woman who could be the deputy family master of the Xin family, a heavenly lord family. There were even rumors that she had an affair with Emperor Qin Qing and that Emperor Qin Qing intended to make her his concubine or even his queen. Otherwise, she wouldn't have never had a partner in her hundreds of years of life. In Emperor Qin Qing's heart she might be even more important than Qin Liuhe. This trip was to increase her bargaining chip and make it easier for her to climb up the ranks. Duanmu Guang and the others certainly hated Zhang Tian. After all, Zhang Tian had killed more than one of their descendants. Every single one of these heirs had been nurtured with endless resources and painstaking efforts. However, because of Hu Jingjing's special identity, they didn't dare to do anything to Zhang Tian. Even if Emperor Qin Qing were there, he would let Zhang Tian go for the time being to save Xin Jingjing. Of course, it was also possible that he would secretly kill Zhang Tian afterward. Everyone thought that Zhang Tian would stop after he got what he wanted. Even Crown Prince Huang Qi was envious. He was a genius and came from a noble family, But he also tried his best to please and give the envoys of the Jade Lake a lot of benefits. He finally had the chance to enter the Jade Lake, but whether he could enter the Tiandao sect was still a big question. But this, a lowly ant from the Earth realm, had such great fortune. It could be said that he had reached the heavens in a single bound. Let go of the grudge between us? Jiang Tian squeezed Xin Jingjing's neck and looked around at Duanmu Guang and the others. What right do you have to forget about it? You killed so many of my people. Don't you want to pay with your life? Kong Teichu, what do you mean? Rhinoceros, who shouted with his eyes wide open. His voice was like thunder. His long saber was still stable and didn't dissipate. It was obviously stronger than Patriarch Binding Ree's. Patriarch Binding Ree's forbidden area could only hold on for a few seconds. What do I mean? Old bastard, don't you understand human language? I'm a vengeful and narrow-minded person. Of course I'll kill you and the forces of the Jade Lake who are my enemies. Jiang Tian carried Xin Jingjing with one hand. He was still calm and composed as he smiled and said with a smile, I'll cut off Emperor Qinqing's head too. What a joke. Jade Lake, the Tiandao sect and your families are nothing. Do you think I want to go? I want to go. I want to be an emperor. I don't want to be a personal disciple. Who does Emperor Qinqing think he is? What right does he have to be my master? In the vast universe and the endless starry sky, how many people are qualified to be my Jiang Taichu's master? To put it bluntly, Emperor Qinqing isn't even qualified to be my sword slave. You don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Saint Fire's Dantian rumbled as his aura surged. He roared, how dare you hurt Fairy Jingjing? Do you think you can leave here alive? Even if you have the ability to reach the heavens, you can only die here. Saint Fire, what's the point of hiding in the back? Come and fight me if you have the guts. Jiang Tian laughed, and the hand that was holding Xin Jingjing's neck suddenly tightened. The black fox fur on her arms and neck appeared and disappeared. It was a sign that her true essence was suppressed and her cultivation level dropped temporarily. She was about to reveal her nascent soul. Taoist Taichu, I advise you to take a step back. Saint Fire didn't dare to go up. He snorted and stopped talking. Huang Qianzhong also softened his tone and tried to persuade Jiang Tian with a smile. The Earth domain and the Stellar Sky domain are poor places after all. You're invincible. What's the point of calling yourself a Dao ancestor? Why don't we pledge our loyalty to Emperor Qinqing and go up to heaven to enjoy the blessings of immortals forever? Kong Teichu, let go. Red Cloud Patriarch shook her head and said, the teleportation array between the Stellar Sky domain and the Kanglan domain is unimpeded. There are countless experts in the Kanglan domain. If you're stubborn and resist today, even nascent soul old monsters won't be able to leave here alive. Many cultivators couldn't help but change their expressions upon hearing this as their imaginations ran wild. Originally, the people of the Jade Lake world could enter the Qi world through the teleportation array. It was even easier to reach the Qi world from the Kanglan domain. After all, both were within the solar system and were very close to each other. The Kanglan domain had been occupied by the Jade Lake for a long time. It was even a few years earlier than the Stellar Sky domain. There were countless experts of the Jade Lake and even nascent soul realm experts from other realms that were on good terms with the Jade Lake. In this way, there might be more than a few nascent soul realm experts in this domain. There might even be late-stage nascent soul realm experts and veteran nascent soul realm experts. At this moment, everyone held their breath and looked at Jiang Tian, waiting for Jiang Tian's decision. Taichu Sovereign, this is a good condition. There's no need to fall out with the other party. Lei Bao and Xin Jiuling were communicating with their divine senses, trying to persuade Jiang Tian to make peace with the other party. In such a situation, any wise person would know what to do. Jiang Tian had already killed Patriarch Tai Ri and Qin Liuhe. Today he had defeated Xin Jingjing. This was an extremely great achievement. With just these two battles he could be proud of the Jade Lake world and even all the third-grade realms. Moreover, if Jiang Tian was afraid of Emperor Qinqing's revenge, he didn't have to enter the Jade Lake. No one could ignore his achievements. He would be recruited by other realms. It could be said that his future was bright and smooth. He would become a genius of the youngest generation, gain both fame and fortune and have unparalleled glory. Jiang Tian didn't have to add fuel to the fire and make a life-and-death feud with Emperor Qinqing. At this moment, Jiang Tian had already won reputation by letting go of Xin Jingjing. He could also escape unscathed in exchange for safety and a chance to ascend to the heavens. For many people, why wouldn't they do such a good thing? I have a problem. I'm timid. When others threaten me, I'm so scared. If my hand trembles, it's easy for me to kill someone. However, to everyone's surprise, Zhang Tian acted as if he didn't hear anything and said with a smile. As he spoke, he shook his arm and was about to crush this girl. Chapter 1345. How dare you? Duanmu Guang and the others were enraged. Cracking sounds came from all kinds of forbidden realms as they prepared to attack. Zhang Tian leisurely glanced at the three and said with a smile, "In this 9 heavens 10 earths, there really aren't many things that I, Jiang Taichu, don't dare to do. If you dare to kill her, there won't be a place for you anywhere in the world. The Jade Lake world won't give up until you and your family are annihilated." She made a vow and his killing intent soared. "Lord Taichu, don't kill me. I'll satisfy you in any way you want." Xinjingjing sensed Zhang Tian's killing intent. She spoke with her immortal will and twisted her snake-like body, trying her best to seduce him. "Annihilate my family? I'm so scared." But Zhang Tian didn't even look at Xinjingjing. How could such a woman make him feel the slightest bit? "Then you can try." Zhang Tian only looked at Duanmu Guang and the other 2 nascent soul cultivators coldly. Then he suddenly shook his arm and the power of the Kunping divine body burst out. Countless crystal-clear wings moved along his arm and slashed like a peerless heavenly sword, as if they could split the sky and the earth. "No!" Countless people exclaimed. But it was too late. Arg! A mournful and sorrowful scream resounded. Under the astonished gazes of countless people and the suppression of the 3 nascent soul stage cultivators, Xinjingjing was cut into a rain of flesh. A mist of blood and broken jade-like bones drifted in the air. She had perished and breathed her last. Even her nascent soul was shattered in an instant. For a moment, the world became extremely quiet and everyone was stunned. The 3 nascent soul stage cultivators threatened Jiang Taichu verbally and personally suppressed Xinjingjing. They were surrounded by tens of thousands of soldiers, but Jiang Taichu still killed Xinjingjing without any hesitation. At this moment, everyone's hearts were palpitating. Kong Taichu first killed Tharch Qinqing's son and then his woman. It was an irreconcilable feud. The 2 sides could only fight to the death. He destroyed the nascent soul with one attack. How terrifying! As for Venerable Holy Fire and the others who had higher cultivation bases and were more insightful, they were even more shocked by Zhang Tian's terrifying abilities and strength. Nascent soul. It was the condensation of a cultivator's essence, energy, and spirit. It was an even higher level life form that was 10 times, 100 times tougher than a golden core. It was eternal, indestructible, and difficult to destroy. In their eyes, Zhang Tian, who had shattered the nascent soul stage, might have a slim chance of winning against 3 nascent soul stage cultivators, but he already had the strength to suppress all gold core stage cultivators. How terrifying! Those people who were laughing at Zhang Tian just now felt chills all over their bodies. They were so scared that they sat on the ground and pissed their pants. Zhang Tian's strength could even shatter a nascent soul in an instant. If he wanted to settle the score with them, wouldn't he be dead? This is too domineering and ruthless. I like it. After a few seconds, Bai Zai came back to his senses and laughed loudly. Zhang Qianlei and the others gasped. "It's over. It's over." As for Lei Xin, Shin Jiuling and the others, their vision turned dark and they almost fainted. Now there was no way to negotiate. What followed next would be a world-shaking battle, one to the death and the other to the death. "Little bastard, I'm going to tear you into pieces today." Hushi's roar resounded through the world. At this moment he was like an enraged Tyrannosaurus. Xinjingjing had participated in this battle to gain experience. Emperor Qinqing had said that they had to protect her. Now that she was killed, Emperor Qinqing would be furious and he would not be able to escape responsibility. Boom! The long blade forbidden realm that he had just disappeared appeared again. Space blade aura and killing aura surrounded Zhang Tian and locked him in place. Suppress. Duanmu Guang also stomped his foot. The forbidden realm that looked like green jade tore the space apart and pressed down on Zhang Tian again. Go to hell. Ancestral Patriarch Red Cloud waved his sleeves and the rolling red clouds turned into wisps of essence chi that pushed toward Zhang Tian from all directions. They overlapped with each other like a red smoke screen, trying to seal and kill Zhang Tian completely. Haha, you want to kill me? You're too weak. Break. Zhang Tian said in a voice filled with mockery. Then he let out a long roar and threw out a simple punch. At this moment, Zhang Tian was extremely happy. Earlier he had used the power of the sky-severing sword to break ancestral patriarch Tai Ri's forbidden realm. But just now he had broken the forbidden realm with his body, which was the result of the stabilization of his chaotic divine plate golden core. Now every movement of his contained the aura of Dharma laws and truth. Controlling the forbidden realm was like an instinct, as if it was his divine power. Zhang Tian's punch looked ordinary at first, like a child's punch. It didn't even have much strength. But the moment he threw the punch, there was an earth-shattering roar and the shadow of a Kunpeng appeared in front of Zhang Tian's fist. It suddenly turned into a dazzling golden line. There was a sizzling sound. With an ear-piercing sound, Hushi's long saber forbidden domain was sliced into two like butter being sliced by a red-hot saber. The boundless space saber radiance was completely shattered into a mess of space fragments, like a pile of messy ash. The golden line was very thin, but it looked extremely sturdy. It was like an indestructible Vajra with an aura of immortality. The golden line was so sharp that it seemed to split space and heaven and earth. At this moment, there was nothing in everyone's eyes except for the dazzling and sharp golden line. Sizzle. There was another sharp sound. The endless red cloud poisonous mist was also broken, and it was even easier. It was like a piece of paper being torn apart. How is this possible? The spirit embryo trembled and Hushi suffered a backlash. His nascent soul let out a cry and his huge body shook violently. A stream of blood spurted out from his mouth. He can break the forbidden realm with his body. Red Cloud Ancestor also cried out. His face turned as white as a sheet of paper, filled with fear and disbelief. He retreated dozens of miles as if he had seen a ghost. Zhang Tian used the Kunping divine body to break the laws of space, and his speed was too fast. He broke through two forbidden realms in the blink of an eye. At this moment the rolling green jade forbidden realm had just landed 10 meters above Zhang Tian's head. He must die. Duanmu Guang roared. The nascent soul in his body roared as he frantically activated the forbidden realm to speed up the suppression of Zhang Tian. Unexpectedly, Zhang Tian only took a step in the air, and as if he had shrunk the ground into an inch, he instantly left the area and dodged the rolling green jade forbidden realm with ease. Boom. Space crumbled and black cracks appeared like spider webs at the place where Zhang Tian was just a moment ago. Countless spatial fragments were like multicolored glass, reflecting a magnificent radiance that cut through everything and shot out in all directions. What a fast movement technique to destroy space with his body. Seeing Zhang Tian rushing towards him, Red Cloud Ancestor's face changed drastically. His face was filled with fear and panic as he retreated as if he had seen a devil. Don't retreat. Let's attack together. Hushi roared and took out a Dharma treasure. It was a palm-sized dragon rhinoceros head and he threw it at Zhang Tian. The head of the rhinoceros grew larger with the wind. It was like a huge mountain in the sky. The aura of the rhinoceros soared into the sky, and the might of the dragon was vast. It swept through the sky, causing the void to tremble. The ground within a radius of 100 miles was trembling, and it quickly collapsed, splitting open huge ravines. The horns on the head were like peerless heavenly swords, sending out a powerful wave of Dharma powers as it struck at Zhang Tian. That's a supreme-grade true artifact. It's the head of a prehistoric dragon rhinoceros, known as the ancestor rhinoceros head. Rumor has it that a soul formation cultivator died and was obtained by Senior Hushi. He used his blood essence for 10 years to refine it. It's not far from a higher-grade Dao artifact. There's only a fine line separating it. Huang Qinzhong's pupils contracted and his eyes were filled with envy. He sighed and commented leisurely. A supreme-grade true artifact. Many people cried out in surprise. A true artifact was related to the laws of heaven and earth and contained endless truths. Normally, only nascent soul cultivators were able to use it. A Dao artifact was even more advanced. It was made of rare materials and was extremely powerful. Besides, it had to be made according to the laws of heaven and earth and contain the truth of the universe. A Dao artifact was rare and difficult to use. Only soul formation grand cultivators or void return or Dao reunion overlords could use it. A supreme-grade true artifact might not be as powerful as a Dao artifact, but it was also extremely rare and powerful. Its owner's power would be increased by 10 times and it would be able to kill a mid-stage nascent soul cultivator or even severely injure a peak-stage nascent soul cultivator. Meanwhile, in everyone's eyes, Xianxia was as tiny as a speck of dust in front of the giant dragon rhinoceros head. He was like a chicken egg in front of a mountain. He was basically throwing an egg against a rock and digging his own grave. That supreme-grade true artifact, the ancestor rhinoceros head, was the trump card of the dragon rhinoceros Hu family. Even the elites on the war god roll of the ruins of deity wouldn't dare to face it head-on. They would have to be careful and avoid it. Chapter 1346. Use the Heaven-Extinguishing Sword. This time it wasn't just Ding Ling Dang and Zhang Qianlei who panicked. Even Bai Zhe, who was always composed, panicked and warned loudly. Even the ancestral patriarch of the True Dragon sect, who knew Jiang Tian's power very well, was worried. Qin Fan had used a supreme-grade true artifact and was a nascent soul heavenly lord. His power had already reached an unimaginable level. The True Dragon sect couldn't see through him anymore. In his opinion, Jiang Tian could only hope to break the supreme-grade true artifact with the Heaven-Extinguishing Sword, which was a more advanced deity artifact. Kong Teichu won't be able to withstand it this time. While many cultivators of the Jade Lake and the Qi sect were confident and smirked, waiting to see Jiang Tian die. Haha. Is a supreme-grade true artifact that impressive? It's just a piece of scrap metal in my eyes, Kong Teichu. Under everyone's shocked gazes, Jiang Tianzong laughed heartily. He didn't use the Heaven-Extinguishing Sword, nor did he dodge. Instead he sped up instead of slowing down. He turned into a dazzling beam of golden light and crashed toward the rhinoceros head. Watch out! The True Dragon sect and Bai Zhe yelled. Ding Lingdang was so scared that she closed her eyes and didn't dare to watch. But what happened next was beyond everyone's imagination. Swish! Jiang Tian sped up and seemed to be able to destroy the dimension and stop time. His body let out a bright aura and the shadow of a Kuan Ping appeared. The Kuan Peng's shadow became more and more real while Jiang Tian's energy became weaker. The moment Jiang Tian's original body completely disappeared and transformed into the Kuan Ping divine body, the Kuan Ping divine body suddenly stretched to its limit and turned into a huge light pillar that was as thick as a bucket and seemed to be able to sweep across the world. It directly crashed into the mountain-like head of the dragon rhino. Boom! Under everyone's astonished gaze, the golden light easily pierced through the ancestral dragon rhinoceros's head, and it was as if several dozen nuclear weapons had exploded at the same time. Violent gales howled between the heavens and the earth, and everything was in a state of chaos. Huge mushroom clouds soared into the sky, and violent shock waves collided and tore at each other, causing a second explosion. Down below, the towering peaks and lofty ridges were all shattered, and huge pits with a radius of 1 mile appeared one after another. With these pits as circular circles, huge gullies spread out like spider webs on the red, desolate land. This was a shocking scene. Jiang Tian had broken through a top-grade true artifact, and the red cliffs of the Pill Cliff had turned into dust one after another. Rubble pierced through the sky and waves of qi swept across the sky for dozens of li. Everything within a radius of 100 li was violently shaking, and even the entire continent was shaking. Pooh! Hushi's body shook violently and he was sent flying 1,000 meters away. He coughed up a mouthful of blood and his face twisted with pain. This top-grade true artifact was a life artifact that he had refined with his life essence blood and was closely connected to his nascent soul. Once it was broken, he would immediately suffer a backlash. When Jiang Tian safely passed through the ancestral dragon rhinoceros head and the rolling smoke and reappeared, the area within 100 li was deathly silent and countless people were dumbfounded. Breaking a top-grade true artifact with one strike? This can't be real, right? Am I seeing things? A top-grade true artifact was broken by his physical body. Breaking a top-grade true artifact with his physical body? This is too terrifying. Crown Prince Huang Qi and Huang Qianzhong were dumbfounded. Even Saint Flame Venerable's mouth was wide open, and he couldn't close it for a long time. Flash! Jiang Tian roared, and for the first time he made a real move. He raised his palm like a knife and slashed down. Sky splitting. Crack. Dozens of golden rays formed in the sky, and the eerie sword light formed a bright sword curtain, which slashed at Hushi like a hot knife through butter. At this time, Jiang Tian's gunmetal divine power was used as the body and the Kunpeng laws were used as the weapon. The gunmetal sword aura was already the sharpest thing in the world, and with the Kunpeng laws, its power increased tenfold, which was enough to destroy everything. Not even a nascent soul cultivator could block it. No. Hushi panicked and retreated in the sky. His nascent soul was severely injured and he couldn't resist at all. Cultivator Hushi is injured. Stop him. Ancestral Patriarch Hong Xia and Duanmu Guang looked at each other and saw the fear in each other's eyes. Go. Duanmu Guang's robe fluttered in the wind as he floated in the air and formed hand seals with his fingers. Every movement of his seemed to be filled with Tao, as if it was compatible with the laws of heaven and earth. There seemed to be flowers blooming and trees growing in his hand, full of vitality. His 10 fingers opened one by one and formed a strange hand seal, which seemed to contain endless vitality and pressed towards Jiang Tian. Green heaven and earth essence chi gathered in the sky and formed the rolling wood forbidden zone. Dozens of giant rolling wood forbidden zone were stacked on top of each other and embedded into each other, forming a magnificent dimensional fence. The fence looked tangible, but it wasn't actually a dimensional fence. It formed a dimensional forbidden zone and appeared to be solid. It was thick, heavy, and indestructible, almost like a spatial barrier. It seemed to be able to stop the flood and cut off the meteors. It wanted to stop Jiang Tian and save Hushi. Crack. However, the rolling wood forbidden zone only blocked Jiang Tian's sword aura for a moment before it was broken. Duanmu Guang grunted and flew backwards like a broken doll. The dharma in his hand collapsed and he was terrified to the extreme. The rolling wood forbidden zone that I used was already the limit of my forbidden zone, but it couldn't stop him from waving his hand. How terrifying is Kong Teichu's power! No wonder he could kill Ancestral Patriarch Binding Sun. Duanmu Guang had entered the nascent soul realm for a long time. He had mastered the forbidden zone to the point of perfection. Even Emperor Qin Qing couldn't break his rolling wood forbidden zone at will. However, it couldn't stop Jiang Tian's gentle palm strike. How could he not be shocked? However, his forbidden zone only lasted for a moment, giving Hushi time to escape and Red Cloud Ancestor's attack. Go! Red Cloud Ancestor's nascent soul screamed. His hair and beard fluttered and his sleeves fluttered. He waved his sleeve. In an instant the Red Cloud Forbidden Zone was pushed to the limit. Rays of red light shot out like cannonballs and formed many crystal-like rays of red light. They surged like a tide and shot across the sky, heading towards Jiang Tian, who she was barely able to survive. After swallowing a pill, he immediately slashed at Jiang Tian more than 10 times. He ran for his life and yelled, "This guy is too strong. Let's return to the Crimson Stone sect and activate the defensive formation." Even though Hushi had swallowed a nascent soul pill with excellent nourishing effects, he still felt very uncomfortable. His nascent soul felt like it was about to shatter. He already understood that the 3 of them couldn't defeat Jiang Tian. They had to report this to Emperor Qin Qing and send all the nascent soul realm cultivators from Jade Lake. No, only Emperor Qin Qing would be able to kill Jiang Tian. Run. In fact, Duanmu Guang also felt that his chances of winning were slim. He just didn't want to give up. Now that Hushi was running away, the last support in his Dao heart collapsed. After casting several forbidden zones at Jiang Tian, his body shook and he broke through the space to escape. Red Cloud Ancestor also shouted in panic, "Huang Qinzhong, what are you waiting for? Run. Run." "What? You're all running away?" Crown Prince Huang Qi was so shocked that his eyeballs almost popped out. 4 nascent soul heavenly lords. It was such a powerful lineup that they could destroy everything in their path. They're running away. At this moment, the cultivators of the Crimson Field Jasper Lake were dumbfounded and took a deep breath. The situation had taken a turn for the worse, which was beyond everyone's expectation. The 4 nascent soul realm cultivators were so arrogant and confident. They claimed that they could kill Jiang Tian as easily as crushing an ant. But the outcome was actually like this. 1 died, 3 were injured, and they fled in all directions in panic like stray dogs. This was simply like an enormous joke, and no one would believe it if it was told to others. "You want to run? Do you think you can escape from me?" Jiang Tian smiled calmly. He lazily stretched out his hand and made a grabbing motion. "I'll let you know the true forbidden zone." Crack. The divine disk in Xianxia's dantian spun, and the galaxy representing the sea-calming ice divine body suddenly shone and rose to the sky. Endless cold and lonely starlight formed a 1,000-foot snow giant behind Xianxian. It was covered in white hair and was covered in ice crystals. The snow giant opened its mouth and roared like a tiger. It spat out a white spatial frost mist, and the rolling power of the Dinghai Pearl swept out. Instantly the frost was thousands of meters long like a white rainbow. This white ray of light contained extremely terrifying energy of restriction, and it was even more terrifying than the cold winds in the depths of hell. Everywhere it passed, it destroyed all life in its path, causing space to be completely frozen, and it seemed to have become 10 times thicker and heavier than before. How can this be? Hu Shi and the other 2 nascent soul stage cultivators suddenly felt an extreme binding force, as if they had fallen into an invisible gate that weighed billions of tons. Moreover, this heavy gate filled every inch of space in all directions, making it impossible to dodge or bypass. It was hindering their progress. A forbidden zone. Hu Shi was immediately horrified. This was a true forbidden zone, not a fake forbidden zone. Moreover, it was a forbidden zone of a higher level than theirs. Break. Break. Break for me. After realizing this, Hu Shi burned his nascent soul and boiled his blood. His muscles and bones kept expanding and he immediately grew from a 2-meter brawny man to 100 meters tall. At this time his dragon scales were glittering and his horns protruded, which was the result of activating his hidden bloodline. It's useless. Jiang Tian placed his hands behind his back, and he approached Meng Chao at a leisurely pace as if he was taking a stroll in the park. It's too late from the moment I performed the Ice God Forbidden Zone. Break. 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 Hu Shi was terrified. He waved the peerless heavenly blade in the shape of a rhinoceros horn and performed more than 10 forbidden spells. But how can there be such a terrifying forbidden zone in the world? You're just an early-stage golden core cultivator. Even a supreme-grade nascent soul cultivator can't perform such a terrifying forbidden zone. However, amidst his angry and unwilling roar, Hu Shi discovered to his despair that he couldn't break Jiang Tian's Dinghai Pearl forbidden zone at all. Instead he was panting and spitting out blood. Chapter 1347. Gradually, Hu Shi's movements became slower and slower. Every time he moved he seemed to be lifting a mountain. He didn't hesitate to burn his nascent soul blood essence, but he was still so tired that his body trembled. His qi and blood were rapidly declining and his hair was turning white at a speed visible to the naked eye. In the end he was completely frozen. He couldn't even move his little finger and his nascent soul was dead silent. Return. Jiang Tian shouted as he reached out with his right hand and made a grabbing motion. Whoosh. What made everyone flabbergasted was, Jiang Tian's dantian rumbled again and the divine will spun again. 100-foot black-scaled Taotai jumped out. The black-scaled Taotai was mighty and domineering. It had greedy eyes and its mouth was wide open. Its fangs were as sharp as swords as if they could swallow the world. Go. Jiang Tian took a step forward as if he was driving away a fly and casually waved his hand. The black-scaled Taotai dashed forward and transformed into an extremely deep black vortex with a radius of 1 mile. The black whirlpool was like a black hole in the universe. It seemed to be able to swallow the world and destroy planets. Even the speed of light couldn't escape from it. This black vortex was incomparably thick and deep. It had an unparalleled devouring power that made one feel as if they were about to fall into it and be unable to extricate themselves from it. Even their spirit and mental energy were about to disappear completely. It was as if the life and death of civilizations, the reincarnation of the sun and the moon, the destruction of the void and even the collapse of the universe were all in the whirlpool. When the whirlpool arrived above Hu Shi's head, it swallowed him like a whale swallowing a cow. Amidst the mournful and unwilling screams, Hu Shi was instantly torn into shreds, breaking apart inch by inch. The translucent bones, the indestructible scales, the immense and heavy blood, and even the vigorous nascent soul were all shattered into a mist of blood that rolled out like tides into straight ribbons of light and flowed toward the black swirl. The Taotai returned to its origin, devouring everything. With a single swallow Hu Shi fell. It's another type of forbidden domain. Oh God! How many laws does he control? How many forbidden realms does he have? This forbidden realm is so terrifying. It can swallow a nascent soul. Everyone cried out in surprise. They were flabbergasted as if they had seen a demon. Since Zhang Tian attacked, he had already displayed at least 4 types of laws. He had derived 4 types of supreme forbidden domains: cut, annihilate, shackle, and devour. Throughout history, every nascent soul cultivator could only control 1 type of forbidden domain. There were even some with poor talent and perception that couldn't even touch the edge of the laws, unable to control even 1 type. And yet Zhang Tian was able to control so many at once. Furthermore, all of Zhang Tian's forbidden realms were far more powerful than normal nascent soul cultivators and comparable to the realms of soul formation cultivators. How could this not be shocking? But this was only the beginning. At this time, Red Cloud Ancestor and Duanmu Guang were also firmly locked in place by Zhang Tian's sea-quelling forbidden zone. They could not break free at all. Even their nascent souls could not move. Tila. As Zhang Tian pointed his finger, a bloody hole appeared on the forehead of the terrified Red Cloud Old Ancestor. This bloody hole was extremely small, but cracks quickly appeared like broken porcelain. The cracks continued to spread and eventually spread to his entire body. In the end, they gathered in his spirit embryo and broke his nascent soul. A vast amount of essence qi gushed out from the cracks. How can I die under the finger of an ant from Earth? Red Cloud Ancestor's eyes shone with resentment, but in the end, it completely turned into despair. His nascent soul roared as if it wanted to reform his nascent soul and body. Unfortunately, in the end, both his nascent soul and body exploded with a boom. Ancestor is dead. He's dead. When Red Cloud Ancestor died, many cultivators of the Huang family, the Crimson Stone sect, and the nobles of the Crimson Light dynasty were dumbfounded. Some of them even cried and fell to the ground, crying loudly. In their eyes, Red Cloud Ancestor was like a god who guarded this world and protected them. He had brought them good fortune for generations to come. Now he had perished and disappeared. They felt as if their hearts had been pierced by a knife. They could not accept it. Even the ancestor is dead. Absolute beginning dominator, spare my life. Crown Prince Huangqi was dumbfounded as he shivered. Then his entire body turned cold and a deep fear coiled around his body like a poisonous snake. He could no longer hold on as he knelt on the ground and kowtowed repeatedly. He's dead. What have I done? On the other hand, tears rolled down Huang Qianzhong's cheeks as well, and he seemed to have lost his soul. His footsteps staggered, and he couldn't even stand steadily while a strand of bitter and dense regret surged into his heart, causing him to be unable to wash it away even if he poured all the water in the world into it. From the beginning, he didn't take Zhang Tian seriously. His opponents had always been Bai Zai, Ding Lai, and the others. Until the news of Zhang Tian killing Ancestor Tai came, he also thought that Zhang Tian had only won by using tricks. Now he understood that he had underestimated Zhang Tian too much. Zhang Tian's strength had reached an unimaginable height. If he had been more cautious at the beginning, not to mention fighting side by side with Zhang Tian and the Stellar Sky Domain, he wouldn't have met with such an ending. He might even have the chance to become Zhang Tian's friend. Explode. Let's perish together. Seeing his 2 fellow Taoists fall one after another without any resistance, Duanmu Guang fought back even more crazily. Swish. His eyes flashed with a cold and fierce light, and his face was filled with endless determination. His nascent soul released an endless green aura like a green jade crystal that was expanding. A force 100 times stronger than the golden core was completely awakened at this moment. Not good. He's going to explode his nascent soul. Bai Zai was shocked. Let's go. Patriarch Shenlong was also furious. He waved his sleeves and retreated hundreds of miles away with Ding Lingdang and the others. The nascent soul was the result of a cultivator breaking the core to form the nascent soul. Could resonate with the laws. A nascent soul heavenly lord could replace the heavenly heart with his heart. With a thought, he could freeze everything within 100 miles and destroy everything within 10 miles with one attack. Once the nascent soul exploded, its power would be extremely terrifying and unimaginable. It would be more powerful than dozens of standard nuclear weapons and was comparable to an attack from a soul formation cultivator. Even a forbidden realm created by a nascent soul cultivator would be destroyed. Kong Teichu, you killed my son and pushed me too far. Today I'm going to perish with you. You brought all of this upon yourself. Go to hell. That green nascent soul was only about an inch long, as if it had been carved out of jade. It glared at Zhang Tian with resentment and roared furiously. Damn it! Damn it! Damn it! Boom! The nascent soul suddenly exploded, and an unparalleled destructive force spread out in all directions. The space was shattered into chaos, and an extremely ear-piercing cracking sound was heard. Cracks actually appeared on the forbidden area that Zhang Tian had created. My dear children and grandchildren of the Duanmu family, you should be smiling if you know about this. Ancestral patriarch has exploded his nascent soul to avenge you. An elder of the Duanmu family in the crowd said with tears in his eyes. It was rare and tragic to explode a nascent soul to kill an enemy. It was a method that would cause both sides to suffer. Even if a cultivator didn't die after exploding his nascent soul, his power would drop to the bottom and he would be no different from a normal person without any power. Meanwhile, Duanmu Guang's situation was even more special. He had already been trapped by Zhang Tian's forbidden realm and there was no way he could escape. He would definitely die. A Cultivator is too powerful. He killed 3 nascent soul cultivators and forced one to explode himself. At this moment many people were stunned. But Cultivator is too young and he's too arrogant. Doesn't he know that we shouldn't chase after a cornered enemy? But Prince Huangqi said with hatred. Right, even a rabbit will bite when it's cornered. Besides, he's a nascent soul heavenly lord. The explosion of a nascent soul is as powerful as an attack from a soul formation cultivator. This time Cultivator will be severely injured even if he doesn't die. Overlord Xianxia and some other overlords shook their heads and sneered. Many people thought that Zhang Tian didn't know when to back down. He had already won, so it was best to stop while he was ahead. Why did he have to be so aggressive and make both sides suffer? In a flash, Duanmu Guang's green nascent soul exploded above Nuanyu blessed land. In a blink, streams of green nascent soul essence flashed across the sky like missiles, creating a 1-mile-long turbulence. They tore the dimension apart and swept towards Zhang Tian. At this moment Nuanyu blessed land was severely affected. The palaces and magnificent pavilions, which were engraved with countless rune arrays and made with heavenly treasures and could withstand the attacks of golden core cultivators and nuclear weapons centers, were torn apart like pieces of paper and turned into dust. After a few flicks of the fingers, the entire warm jade blessed land disappeared. It was forcibly erased. How ruthless! You're willing to detonate your nascent soul to kill me. I admire you. In the void, the long robe was pulled straight back by the violent energy waves, but Zhang Tian was like a spring breeze, with his hands behind his back. His face was as calm as still water as he let out a long sigh, and even had a hint of admiration in his eyes. Zhang Tian wasn't mocking him but actually complimenting him. Duanmu Guang was much more decisive than the other 3 nascent soul cultivators. He knew he couldn't escape death, so he fought with Zhang Tian. As far as Zhang Tian was concerned, being so resolute and cutting off all means of retreat was the true nature of a cultivator. What a shame. Zhang Tian shook his head and sighed. Your 2 fellow cultivators were not as resolute as you. Otherwise, it would have been quite a mess if you detonated your nascent souls at the same time. What? After hearing what Zhang Tian said and seeing how calm Zhang Tian was, Duanmu Guang was startled and an unbelievable thought came to his mind. Could it be that he could withstand the explosion of his nascent soul? Then he saw something horrified. The green wood elemental nascent soul essence became slower and slower after it was pushed 3 miles away. In the end, it floated in the air like green smoke. At that moment, Zhang Tian had already activated the Forbidden Zone with the Dinghai Pearl's golden core to control Duanmu Guang. The Dinghai Pearl's Forbidden Zone was extremely sturdy. Duanmu Guang had already used up most of his Dharma power by exploding his nascent soul. He was already at the end of his rope when he reached Zhang Tian. Duanmu Guang and the others had never realized that Zhang Tian had formed a golden core that controlled 9 types of laws and formed 9 forbidden zones. Not even 9 nascent soul heavenly lords would be a match for him. They had seriously underestimated Zhang Tian's strength from the beginning to the end. Tuck tuck tuck. Zhang Tian raised his hand and gently tapped the green misty nascent soul essence blood. The essence of a wood elemental nascent soul. Not bad. So I won't leave it for you. Taotai returns. That heart-palpitating black vortex had once again appeared in the world. Chapter 1348. It floated in front of Zhang Tian's Dantian, like the biggest and most terrifying black hole in the universe. It seemed to be able to break all laws and swallow all worlds. The vast energy of the azure nascent souls suddenly moved again. However, it didn't attack Zhang Tian. Instead, it went into the black vortex like a swallow returning to the forest. In just a few seconds, the essence of the nascent souls had been completely swallowed by the black vortex. Not even a drop was left. Kong Teichu, this isn't the end. The Jade Lake world won't let you go. In the end, even Duanmu Guang's many protective true treasures and powerful body were torn apart amidst his despairing screams. They turned into surging essence chi that surged towards the black vortex. Boom. Only after Zhang Tian absorbed all of the blood essence of the 4 nascent soul cultivators and cancelled his forbidden realm divine power did a thunderous rumble resound through the void. Billowing airwaves instantly spread hundreds of miles away and even thousands of miles away, reaching an unfathomable distance. Before this, most of the energy had been sealed by Zhang Tian's forbidden domain. Now that Zhang Tian had put away the forbidden domain, the remaining energy had started to ripple out, and the remaining energy had completely erupted. At this moment, the entire Scarlet Field world, which was thousands of kilometers in radius, was trembling. Heaven and earth were in chaos and the mountains and rivers were displaced. Rocks of all sizes jumped up high as if there was an earth-shattering earthquake. The dimensional barriers were glittering, twisting and stretching, making the stars in the sky blur as if they were about to collapse. Who's causing such an earth-shattering battle? The power of a single strike is so terrifying. Could it be that His Majesty the Azure Emperor has descended? No, I heard that the Lord of Star World is here. Terrifying. At this instant, no matter if it was cultivators, demon beasts, or commoners, the myriad of living beings felt Zhang Tian's monstrous divine might, and they were terrified to the point of trembling as they prostrated themselves on the ground and prostrated themselves in worship. Terrifying. Extremely terrifying. This time when they faced Zhang Tian's peerless divine ability and might, all of them felt as if they'd fallen into an ice cellar. Their entire bodies couldn't help but tremble, and they were unable to arouse the slightest desire to resist. Before this, it was rumored that Zhang Tian had killed Patriarch Tai Ri and Qin Liuhe. Everyone could say that Zhang Tian had used tricks or sneak attacks to win. At this moment, they were certain that Zhang Tian had crushed them in strength from beginning to end. Especially when Duanmu Guang did not hesitate to detonate his nascent soul in order to take Zhang Tian down with him. However, Zhang Tian easily neutralized the attack and even devoured his nascent soul. This made everyone's hair stand on end. Originally, a core formation cultivator couldn't challenge a nascent soul cultivator. This had never happened in the Jade Pool or the Crimson Wild World since ancient times. Zhang Tian had slain 4 nascent soul stage cultivators in a row, which had broken the understanding of all cultivators. Besides, Duanmu Guang had detonated his nascent soul in the end, which was comparable to an attack from a soul formation grand cultivator, but he still couldn't defeat him. Didn't that mean that Kong Teichu had the strength to face a soul formation grand cultivator? Just how strong was Zhang Tian? Everyone felt that they could not see through him. He was less than 50 years old and came from a remote place like Earth, but he was able to fight with a soul formation cultivator. This was simply unbelievable. Clatter, clatter, clatter. A golden core cultivator killed a nascent soul stage cultivator? How could there be such a monstrous freak in the Earth realm? Crown Prince Huangqi's teeth chattered and he murmured with a broken voice. He was extremely talented and was able to form a golden core at such a young age. He was at least much more powerful than Li Longyuan, the master of the Starry Sky Palace back then. But at this moment, compared to Zhang Tian, he felt that he couldn't be more trashy. There was no comparison at all. He wasn't even worthy of carrying Zhang Tian's shoes. Even a superior-grade golden core cultivator can't do that. The difference between a nascent soul cultivator and a golden core cultivator is like heaven and earth. It's even possible that he's already reached the nascent soul level, but he suppressed his power before. A sect master on the Qi Yi sect guessed with a trembling voice. But he only has the resources of earth. How can he reach the nascent soul level? Even the Qi Yi world hasn't had a second nascent soul cultivator in thousands of years, apart from ancestral patriarch Xianxia. An old woman next to him said with a hoarse voice. She couldn't accept it. No matter what. If he can kill a nascent soul cultivator, Killing golden core cultivators and foundation establishment cultivators like us will be a piece of cake. I think we should hurry up and show our goodwill or we'll be in trouble. Another sect master said with a trembling voice. At this moment, no matter if it was Qi Yi or the cultivators of the Jade Lake, all of them were shocked. They were like clay statues unable to move. He can even swallow the explosion of a nascent soul cultivator. What else can't he swallow? Even ancestral patriarch True Dragon was deeply shocked. He had spent many days with Zhang Tian, so he knew how heaven-defying Zhang Tian's golden core was. However, he didn't expect it to be this heaven-defying. Even in the entire ruins of immortality, there probably wasn't such a terrifying golden core. This move of the Taichu Dominator is enough to conquer the universe. Bai Zai's eyes shone with a bright light that he had never seen before. He was extremely excited, and at the same time he stared at the black vortex in Zhang Tian's hand, not letting go of a single detail as he secretly comprehended it. He's so powerful now. How many resources does he have? The corners of Zhang Qianlei's mouth twitched, and his eyes were opened wide with disbelief. At this moment he was extremely regretful. He shouldn't have left Zhang Tian and come to this world alone just to surpass Zhang Tian. If he had followed Zhang Tian, he would have been a golden core cultivator. Run. One of the Jade Lake's special envoys finally reacted. Without saying a word, he turned into a shooting star and flew into the distance, leaving behind a long and blurry green afterimage. This person was a golden core cultivator and was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, he had flown dozens of miles away. The others looked at each other. Some of them were eager to try while others directly flew into the sky. Kong Teichu was too terrifying. Not only was he powerful but he was also ferocious. If they stayed they would be cruelly punished. Don't move. Zhang Tian said and flicked his finger at the Jade Lake cultivator who had flown 100 miles away. Bang! There was a muffled sound. The golden core of the Jade Lake envoy exploded and his body shattered, turning into a rain of flesh and broken bones that fell to the ground. Who dares to run? You will die. Zhang Tian said calmly, but there was a great majesty in his voice. At this time his vast Dharma power had completely enveloped an area of dozens of miles, making the earth rumble and the void tremble as if an ancient god had descended. At this moment, countless cultivators within 100 miles lowered their heads and trembled when they felt Zhang Tian's terrifying aura. They didn't dare to look at Zhang Tian and gave up the idea of running away. We will wait for the punishment of the absolute beginning dominator. We are willing to submit to the absolute beginning dominator and protect the stellar sky domain and the earth domain. We will do anything for you. We were forced by Huang Qianzhong and the Jade Lake cultivators. The cultivators knelt in the air and were extremely uneasy. Zhang Tian's Kunping was too fast. If the finger radiance or the flying sword were strengthened by the Kunping, it would be 10 times faster. Even if you ran for 10 minutes you still wouldn't be able to escape. At this time the smoke and clouds had disappeared. The starry sky was bright and the barren red land was silent. Zhang Tian stood in the void with his hands behind his back. His white robe was bathed in the starry light and was not stained by a speck of dust or damage. Obviously he still had some energy left to fight against the 4 nascent soul cultivators. In addition, many cultivators were prostrating themselves in worship. The area within 100 miles was extremely quiet. Ding Lingdong's beautiful eyes bloomed as she looked up at Zhang Tian. She felt that Zhang Tian was like an ancient divine king that had descended to the mortal world. He was high and mighty. No one could stop him and no one dared to challenge his majesty. Venerable Xinghua, the Imperial Thunder Sect has been friends with the Stellar Sky Domain and the Earth Domain for generations. But you killed the old sect master Tang Yuan with one sword. Now I want to kill you to avenge Tang Yuan. What do you have to say? For a long time in the heart-palpitating silence, Zhang Tian put his left hand behind his back and took out the green jade wine pot with his right hand. He took a sip of the thunderfire wine with a calm and relaxed expression. There was even a hint of mockery on his face. Kong Teichu, don't you dare be so arrogant. There are 7 heavenly lord families and sects above the Jade Lake. There are less than 10 nascent soul heavenly lords and the Azure the Arch is even more powerful. You've only killed 4 nascent soul heavenly lords so far. If the Jade Lake goes crazy and seeks revenge, you won't be able to live. Venerable Xinghua was already trembling in fear, but he had to give it a try in the face of death. He shouted, "As long as you don't kill me, I'll help you mediate. We can shake hands and make peace." Mediate? Jiang Tian shook his head and smiled mockingly. "I killed Emperor Qin Qing's son, woman and right-hand men. This is a life and death feud. You can't mediate at all. It all depends on the person." Venerable Xinghua opened his mouth and wanted to say something. However, Jiang Tian's eyes were indifferent as he interrupted. "In fact, I don't want you to help me mediate. I don't want to make peace with Emperor Qin Qing. Otherwise I wouldn't have killed them. You don't have to worry about whether I fight or make peace with Emperor Qin Qing. Anyway, I'm going to kill you." As he spoke, Jiang Tian mercilessly slapped down with his palm. Chapter 1349. Boom. A 1-mile-long golden palm came crashing down from the sky towards sacred flame supremacy as if it was covering the sky. Kong Teichu Yu. Heavenly Fire 9 Sons. Reverend Holy Flame's eyes nearly popped out of their sockets as he howled in fear. His dantian rumbled and trembled as an endless amount of fire elemental Zhen Yuan gushed out from his gold core. 9 blazing red suns appeared behind his back, blazing with raging flames that illuminated the entire sky. These grand sun dharma images were created by him risking his life to rush out of the dimensional barrier and into the deep void to collect a kind of eternal star fire called 9 Suns Blazing Fire, which he refined with his own blood essence for 100 years. The fire of 9 suns was ranked 12th among the heavenly fire in the cultivation world and was much more powerful than the red lotus earth fire in Fire Beacon City. But then, under Jiang Tian's hand, the 9 suns exploded. The 9 blazing suns exploded like fireworks. The scattered flames burned holes in the earth and cracked the mountain rocks. How is that possible? It's a metal elemental divine power, but it's not afraid of the heavenly fire 9 suns. Amid his miserable and despairing cries, Venerable Holy Fire was forcefully crushed by the palm's strike. Even his gold core had cracked and collapsed, and it was devoured by Jiang Tian's Taotai into the divine disk. The entire place went silent. Everyone's hearts were pounding and their bodies trembled. What Jiang Tian was using was the simplest essence condensation weapon, which was on the same level as the wind blades. He didn't even activate his golden core. He was only using the means and dharma formulations of foundation establishment cultivators. It was simple and crude. But in Jiang Tian's hands, it exploded with unparalleled destructive power. With a simple slap, he killed a nascent soul cultivator who was in control of a mystical flame. This was simply like the biggest joke in the world. No one would dare to believe it even if it was told. It could be seen how terrifying Jiang Taichu's strength was. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. Then Jiang Tian flicked his fingers expressionlessly. His golden finger aura pierced through the sky. Amidst the wails of despair and begging for mercy, a bloody mist bloomed in the air like flowers. White brain matter and broken bones flew everywhere and landed on the crimson-red ground. It was a ghastly sight. In a blink, all the envoys of the Jade Lake, including the Golden Core cultivators and the Foundation Establishment cultivators, were killed. There was a bone-chilling silence. Only the sound of the wind was heard. No one dared to say a word. They seemed to be able to hear each other's heavy breathing and heartbeats. Only Zhang Qianlei knelt down in the direction of the thunder-controlling sect and solemnly kowtowed 3 times and 9 times. "Senior Tang Yuan, did you see that? Cultivator Tai Chu has avenged you. You didn't shed your blood for earth in vain. You didn't die for nothing. Alas, if Jiang Taichu had come earlier, we wouldn't have had to endure humiliation and become slaves." Lei Sen and Shen Jiuling also sighed deeply. Their faces were full of shame as they knelt behind Zhang Qianlei and kowtowed. Huang Qianzhong. Jiang Tian's gaze suddenly landed on the ashen-faced Huang Qianzhong and said calmly, "You betrayed us and destroyed the peace agreement between the 2 worlds. You colluded with the cultivators of the Jade Lake and set me up. Now you have to give me an explanation." Hearing that, Huang Qianzhong's body trembled and his pale face became even paler. His body, which used to be majestic, had become hunched. He lowered his arrogant head and said bitterly, "I'm sorry." Fine. Who would have thought that I, Huang Qianzhong, had always thought that my foresight was unique, but this time I was wrong. He actually offended a true god. When Crown Prince Huangqi and the others heard this, They all revealed sorrowful expressions and their bodies trembled slightly. Zhang Tian was able to withstand the explosion of a nascent soul cultivator, which meant that he could withstand the attack of a soul formation cultivator. Once a cultivator reached the soul formation level, his primordial spirit would be placed in the void and he would be immortal. He would abandon the low-level spirit stones and spirit herbs and absorb the energy of the universe. He would be a god in the human world and a divine entity. He was also called a heavenly master, deity, or divine master. At this moment he called Zhang Tian a real entity. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that Zhang Tian was a real entity in terms of strength. My friend Tai Chu, the Huang family is willing to admit defeat. I Huang Qianzhong deserved to die. I only hope that Senior Tai Chu can leave some descendants of the Huang family for the sake of the old man who did shelter the refugees of the planet Tianxing. Huang Qianzhong bowed deeply, his body trembling as he begged sincerely, "Please forgive me. Besides, the alliance with the Jade Lake has nothing to do with the leaders of the other sects and cities. My friend Tai Chu, please let them live." "Father." Prince Huang Qi and the others were sad, but they didn't dare to speak loudly. Huang Qianzhong didn't care about them. Since he rose to power, he had swept away the strong and killed countless people. His hands were stained with blood and he walked to the top by stepping on piles of bones. Among the people he killed there were even his own brothers and sisters. He knew that the cultivation world was cruel and ruthless. From the day he stepped on the path of cultivation, he was prepared to die an unnatural death. However, he did not expect that this day would come so quickly and that he would fail so miserably. Huang Qianzhong's eyes were filled with despair as he gently sighed. He took out a scarlet seal from his interspatial ring and offered it to Huang Qianzhong with both hands. This is the imperial seal of the Qia world. Since the beginning of interstellar wandering, it represents the highest power in this world. No cultivator or mortal dares to disobey it. Now I give it to the Tai Chu Dominator. From now on, this world belongs to the Tai Chu Dominator. Looking at the big seal, everyone's hearts jumped. In fact, this seal was not only the symbol of the highest power, but also the array pestle that activated the gravity simulation, teleportation, spirit gathering, killing, and many other arrays of the Qia world. Controlling the formation pestle in the shape of a large seal was equivalent to controlling the entire world. Life and death were in one's hands and no one dared to rebel. Not enough. Unexpectedly, Zhang Tian shook his head. Tai Chu Sect Master, do you want to destroy the Qia world? Huang Qianzhong seemed to have expected this. He wasn't surprised, but his expression seemed to have deteriorated. I, Kong Taichu, may kill freely, but I don't kill the innocent. Zhang Tian said indifferently. Star World once helped the Crimson Stone sect and the Huang family, but the Huang family betrayed them. Therefore, I won't leave a single one of your Huang family alive. As he spoke, Zhang Tian suddenly took out Absolute Heaven's sword and swung it. Crack! It was as though a huge bolt of lightning had struck the void. Huang Qianzhong, Crown Prince Huang Qi, and the many descendants of the Huang family were all killed. Their bodies were all cut to pieces. All the golden cores were taken back by Zhang Tian. After today, the Huang family and even the Crimson Stone sect that had dominated this world for 1,000 years would be completely removed from the Qia world. Huang Qianzhong's body was broken, but he was a golden core expert after all. He was still alive. It's over. The Huang family is finished in my hands. I'm a sinner. Seeing this, his face was filled with despair and pain. His body trembled and hot tears rolled down his face. Huang Qianzhong, it's not like you said that only the Huang family is my enemy. In fact, at least half of the sects in this world have joined the Jade Lake world and tried to encroach on my territory. I only killed the main culprits like their sect masters as punishment. Zhang Tian said indifferently. Then he smashed Huang Qianzhong into dust and even his spirit was destroyed. Soaring Feather Sect, Blue Moon Sect, Desolate Wood Sect, Iron Fist Sect. Zhang Qianlei, Lei Sin, and Xin Jiuling named 7 or 8 sects and important people in a row. They all had no integrity and joined the Jade Lake world without a fight. Tai Chu Sect Master, please spare us. We were forced to do this. Tai Chu Sect Master, we didn't want to be your enemy. These sect masters were all well-known figures in this world. They were powerful and powerful. If they stomped their feet, the entire Qi world would tremble. But at this moment, under Zhang Tian's peerless ferocious might and the threat of death, All of them knelt down successively and kowtowed like they were pounding garlic. Some of them even had their true essence become unstable and pissed their pants in terror. At this moment their hearts were filled with regret. They all thought that the Jade Lake could destroy the Stellar Sky domain as easily as cutting vegetables. After all, the Jade Lake was the most powerful third-grade world with nascent soul realm cultivators. They never thought that Xianxia was so powerful that they would end up in such a miserable state. These small fries couldn't even withstand a single blow. Xianxia didn't even need to do anything. Die. Under Xianxia's gaze, Bai Zhe rushed up and unleashed his terrifying Dharma idol. With a punch and a kick he smashed them into dust. Blood dyed the ground red. Corpses and bones were strewn everywhere. Blood chi surged into the sky like smoke. The smell of blood was pungent. At this moment, all the Qi cultivators were pale. They were trembling in fear as if they had lost their parents. They knelt on the ground obediently and lowered their arrogant heads. They didn't even dare to look at Xianxia. He didn't know when a calamity would befall him and he would die an unnatural death. Chapter 1350. Xianxia floated to the ground with his hands behind his back and said slowly, "I'm sorry." He slowly said, "I came here to guard Heavenly Star Realm and establish a divine soul contract with all of you. Together we will resist the tyranny of the ruins of immortality in Jade Lake." Perhaps in your eyes, the ruins of immortality in Jade Lake are powerful and unshakable. But today you have all seen that although I, Kong Teichu, only have a golden core cultivation, I can kill nascent soul cultivators with ease. What fellow Taoist Absolute Beginning says is true. Everyone nodded, sincerely convinced. If Xianxia had said this before, he would have been met with endless ridicule from the Red Wild World. Many cultivators would have scoffed at him. You think we can establish a divine soul contract just because you say so? You think we can resist the ruins of immortality just because you say so? Based on what? What qualifications do you have? But now things were different. Xianxia had already killed 4 nascent soul old ancestors. In particular, when he detonated Duanmu Guang's nascent soul, he revealed a strength comparable to an Empyrean at divine transformation. This caused everyone to believe that Xianxia had the strength to contend with the Jade Lake world. Of course, as long as you sign a divine soul contract with me, you will be my disciples. I will not treat you badly. I will pass on your transcendent cultivation methods and supernatural abilities, and even control sealing techniques, forbidden domains and other space techniques. These will be your capital to resist the Jade Lake world. As Xianxia spoke, many cultivators began to stir. After all, Xianxia had reached the peak at such a young age. The supernatural abilities, cultivation methods, alchemy techniques, array formations, and so on, he could be said to be heaven-shaking and earth-shattering. There were even true immortal cultivation methods. In fact, this was true. Xianxia's Wizard and True Dragon were not to be trifled with. If they followed Xianxia, even if they could only learn bits and pieces, it would be enough for them to reach heights they couldn't even imagine before. Moreover, the remaining cultivators had no enmity with Xianxia. If they took this opportunity to submit to Xianxia, it could be said to be killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Absolute Beginning Ruler wants to teach us the art of controlling space origin energy? Suddenly, Lei Sin reacted and exclaimed. To a cultivator, the most difficult thing to cultivate was not Dharma form, divine ability, chi weapon, or the 5 elements divine ability. Instead, it was the ability to manipulate the vital chi of heaven and earth and use it to control space. The outstanding cultivators of the Golden Core stage could restrict and seal, which was known as control. The nascent soul stage was a forbidden area, and the divinity stage was a stronger and more advanced area. Not to mention the forbidden domain and the domain, just the simplest control and suppression. Once it is formed, the natural energy within a radius of 1,000 feet will be at my disposal, and I will be able to seal and suppress the enemy into an iron plate. Even if you had thousands of divine abilities and secret techniques, you wouldn't be able to use them. You would be like a fish on a chopping board waiting to be slaughtered. Of course, in reality, control, restriction, sealing, and even forbidden regions couldn't be considered to have truly grasped the space laws. Instead, they borrowed the heaven and earth yuan qi to mobilize the power of space, and what they formed could only be considered a pseudo-domain. However, this was already an invincible and heaven-defying method to defeat the enemy. Not to mention the Qi Yi, even in the Jade Pool, Dragon Gate and other level 3 worlds, it had always been a top-notch cultivation method. It was a secret that was never passed on. Jiang Tian actually said that he was going to teach them these things. How could they not be shocked? That's right. As long as you're willing to pledge allegiance to me and fight side by side against the invaders of the Jade Pool deity ruins, what's the point of teaching you these things? Jiang Tian said calmly. The art of controlling the heaven and earth Yuan Qi was a supreme secret technique for them, just like a divine art. However, Jiang Tian knew at least 800 if not 1,000. For Jiang Tian it was just the most basic of the basics. So what if Jiang Tian taught them some shallow and low-level cultivation methods? This time the leaders of the various sects were astounded. Even Shin Jiuling, who had always been afraid of the Jade Pool, was ecstatic. His blood was boiling as he said excitedly, "Good, good, good. With the help of such a divine art, we really don't need to be afraid of the Jade Pool. Yeah, who says we're inferior to the Jade Pool? As long as we cultivate diligently, we might be able to fight against them." The Taichu Dominator is so generous. No wonder the cultivators of planet Heavenly Star follow him everywhere. That's right, we'd rather die than become slaves of a conquered country. Many cultivators were overjoyed and their spirits were lifted. After the battle in the warm jade-blessed land, Jiang Tian had made a divine soul contract with everyone, and sent them a few kinds of earth and fire element techniques. After that he had ordered everyone to leave. However, the impact of this battle had just started to spread out. For 1,000 years, this world belonged to the Crimson Stone sect and the Huang family. The Huang family had been in this world for 1,000 years. They had deep roots and connections in all directions. The top 10 sects all had deep relationships with him and listened to his orders. Needless to say, there was also the massive Crimson Radiance Empire, numerous mundane cities and cultivation clans. Could be said to be massive and complicated to the extreme. When the news spread, the entire Crimson Field was shocked. Many people couldn't believe it, as if the sky had collapsed. After all, those who watched the battle in warm jade-blessed land were the leaders and elites of the major sections. However, many cultivators and even the entire mortal world didn't go to watch. When they heard the news, many people were completely shocked. Emperor Qinzhong is dead? How is that possible? Nothing is impossible. My master saw it with his own eyes. Even Red Cloud Ancestor and Crown Prince Huang Qi were killed by Kong Teichu. The entire bloodline of the Huang family will be annihilated. Red Cloud Ancestor, that's a nascent soul ancestor. I don't care if you believe it or not. I don't believe it. That's right. The Red Cloud Ancestor was undefeated in 10,000 battles. He was a high and mighty existence. He was like a living immortal. How could anyone kill him? I don't believe it either. Many people couldn't accept it when they heard it at first. They didn't believe it at all. In the past, Huang Qianzhong and Red Cloud Ancestor were like gods in their hearts. But now they died in the hands of an ant from Earth. It was like a joke. There were even old cultivators who shouted angrily, saying that the person who sent the news had evil intentions and wanted to overthrow the order and create internal strife. I'll kill him. But then more and more witnesses sent news. There were even sect masters of major sects who watched the battle that night who testified. When all of this was confirmed, everyone was stunned. Everyone was dumbstruck, as if they were grieving for their parents. A golden core cultivator killing a nascent soul cultivator? Has there ever been such a precedent in the past? In that case, from now on, won't the Earth domain and the Stellar Sky domain be riding on our heads and doing whatever they want? Countless people beat their chests and stomped their feet. How can the Stellar Sky field invade us? I don't believe it. I'm going to take revenge on that emperor killer. But then, the details of the death of Xin Jingjing, Hu Shi and Duanmu Guang, the 3 heavenly lords from the Jade Lake, were also spread. In an instant, everyone shut their mouths and gave up on the topic. Even Emperor Qinqing isn't that powerful. I heard that when he had just reached the golden core level, he had challenged a nascent soul cultivator in his family, but it was a draw. Does this mean that Kong Teichu is more talented than Emperor Qinqing? Monster. Monster. Many people gasped. The heavenly lord of the Jade Lake. A heavenly lord could control the world and create a forbidden region. The more powerful one's cultivation was, the more he understood the power of the world and what the heavenly lord meant. A heavenly lord could replace the heavenly lord with his own heart and enforce justice on behalf of the heavens. He could lift up the sky with one hand. Moreover, they were 3 heaven monarchs from the Jade Lake, but they were all killed by Jiang Taichu. If he wasn't a monster, then what was? Then, the absolute beginning ruler gave the Imperial Thunder sect a set of the 5-element thunder punishment art. Without the need to use the Thunderstrike stone, it can create lightning in the void and kill opponents of a higher level. It is invincible and can be called an immortal cultivation art. We are grateful for the absolute beginning's kindness. The acting sect master of the Imperial Thunder sect, Lei Sin, announced. The Desolate Wood sect was given a set of wood element cultivation art by the absolute beginning ruler. It is a nascent soul cultivation art. The disciples of the Desolate Wood sect will always be loyal to the absolute beginning ruler and will never betray him. The new sect master of the Desolate Wood sect also announced. My Flying Feather sect also supports the Grand Primordium Dominator. The Grand Primordium Dominator is our savior. Whoever dares to betray the Grand Primordium Dominator is an ungrateful person. Go through my Flying Feather sect first, and I'll be the first to not spare him. Then the Flying Feather sect, the Iron Fist sect, the Xianxia sect and other large and small sects also announced their support for Jiang Tian. All the sect masters showed their support and immediately became Jiang Tian's loyal soldiers. The situation changed without them noticing. Jiang Tian went from being an invader and a king killer to being the liberator and savior of the Qi world. Especially when they heard that Jiang Tian was handsome and young, many female cultivators wanted to go to the Imperial Thunder sect to ask if Jiang Tian had a partner and if they had the chance to dual cultivate with the absolute beginning ruler. This was Jiang Tian's temperament that had been tempered for tens of thousands of years. The key to the way to control one's subordinates was to use the carrot and stick at the same time. Only by giving them a slap and then a carrot and stick would they be loyal and devoted. Only a soul contract was not enough. The absolute beginning ruler has returned, killed Xianxia and wiped out the Jade Lake army. The Stellar Sky domain has been liberated. Everyone can go back. When the big black dog ascended to the sky and announced the news, the Stellar Sky domain, the Heavenly Star refugee camp which had a radius of 10 miles, was deathly silent for a full minute. Then, as if a block of ice had been thrown into a pot of hot oil, it began to boil and burst into jubilation. What did I just hear? The absolute beginning ruler has returned and defeated the Jade Lake army. Liberated. The Stellar Sky domain has been liberated. We can go home. Child, the Jade Lake army has been defeated and Xianxia is dead. The absolute beginning sect master has avenged you. Many Stellar Sky refugees couldn't believe it at first, but when they came back to their senses, they cried tears of joy and excitement. They cried and laughed, hugged each other and sang and danced. We thank the absolute beginning ruler for stopping the fall of the heavens and saving the people from the fire and water. Some white-haired old cultivators trembled in the direction of the warm jade-blessed land where Jiang Tian was and kowtowed. They didn't care if Jiang Tian could see them or not. They all kowtowed crazily. We thank the absolute beginning ruler. Then all the Stellar Sky living beings knelt down. Whether they were mortals, cultivators, demons or humans, they all prostrated themselves on the ground and kowtowed heavily. Their faces were full of reverence and gratitude. Chapter 1351. This was truly an unexpected surprise. They didn't even dare to think about it. Because the Jade Lake world was too strong. In their opinion, they couldn't shake it at all and would never be able to take back Star World. They thought that they could only be refugees and die silently in a foreign world without any dignity, never to return to their homeland. But now Jiang Tian had returned and destroyed the Jade Lake's army as easily as crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood. He had destroyed everything and helped them take back their ancestral land. Why weren't they grateful and overjoyed? Brother Black, have a bite. Zhao Quan nodded and bowed beside the big black dog. He handed over a sizzling pig dragon thigh and asked with a face full of fear. He is Kong Te Chu. Yes, it's the real deal. The big black dog ate the pig dragon meat and ordered the Crimson Field cultivators to open the teleportation formation and send these refugees back. Damn, I actually scolded him. I brushed shoulders with the Grim Reaper. Zhao Quan was so scared his legs went soft. He couldn't control the urge to pee and said in a daze. At this time, Jiang Tian was dealing with the vast cultivation resources of the Huang family and the Crimson Stone sect. The Huang family had dominated this world for hundreds of years, especially when the Crimson Stone sect was conquering the world. They had once swept through dozens of sects, burning, killing, and looting. They had obtained countless cultivation resources such as spirit herbs, spirit medicines, spirit stones, cultivation methods, and so on. As for the famous mountains, great rivers, spirit veins, and spirit springs, they were all imperial land. But now they had all become Zhang Tian's private property. He could take and use them as he pleased. I've long felt that the Red Cloud ancestors' level of formations wasn't enough to attract the aura of the earth from hundreds of kilometers away. It turns out that there is a huge spirit vein hidden underground in warm jade-blessed land that stretches for hundreds of kilometers. Zhang Tian stood above the ruins of warm jade-blessed land with his hands behind his back. He looked like he was taking a stroll, his divine sense sweeping back and forth as he smiled faintly. Beside him, Ding Lingdang, Bai Zai, Zhang Qianlei, the true dragon ancestor, and the big black dog were accompanying him. Slow down. These are the treasures that the absolute beginning dominator wants. If anything goes wrong, I'll break your legs. Lei Sen and Shen Jiuling ordered many Qi cultivators to move the cultivation resources of the Huang family over. Lei Sen had abused Zhang Qianlei in every possible way. According to Zhang Qianlei's opinion, Lei Sen should be skinned alive. However, although Zhang Qianlei had a fiery temper, he still cared about the big picture. The Imperial Thunder sect had many things to do, and was in dire need of manpower. Zhang Qianlei carried out Sect Master Tang's last wish to revive the sect. He did not kill him and let him live. Now facing Zhang Qianlei, Lei Sen Shen Jiuling was like a pug that had seen its master. He nodded and bowed to Zhang Qianlei and followed his orders. He was very useful and had become Zhang Qianlei's right-hand man. Influence and power were good things. Zhang Tian had already become the ruler of this world. With a single command, he possessed the power to topple mountains and overturn seas. Many sects and cities did not even have time to curry favor with him. They all took action, afraid that if they were slow, they would offend Zhang Tian. In just a few days, the dilapidated fences and dilapidated walls within a radius of 100 miles had long been cleared away, and a magnificent palace had been built. These palaces were magnificent and inlaid with gold and jade. Many gems and crystals were used in large quantities as glazed tiles and bricks. In addition, there were rockery and strange stones carved with large pieces of spirit stones. They were cleverly arranged into a spirit-gathering array, releasing thousands of rays of light and thousands of auspicious colors. It was simply like a paradise on earth. In terms of luxury, the royal gardens of any country on earth were like thatched houses compared to it. In fact, Zhang Tian did not like this kind of extravagance. In his opinion, a thatched house was enough to shelter him from the wind and rain. It even needed to be covered by the sky and on the ground. What really attracted Zhang Tian was a giant spirit vein under the warm jade-blessed land. 100 meters underground, there was a giant spirit vein hidden. The spirit chi was extremely rich and had already crystallized. It was crystal clear like a red agate, far more than the spirit veins Zhang Tian had seen in other worlds. The spirit veins on Earth were even more difficult to catch up. No wonder the Qi world had so many golden core cultivators in recent years, far more than the stellar sky domain. They have such a deep foundation. Bai Zai touched his chin that was full of green stubble and said gloomily. According to the number of golden core cultivators in the Qi world, it was comparable to an ordinary third-grade dimensional world. But the stellar sky domain had spent hundreds of years and exhausted the resources of the entire continent to only produce one golden core cultivator, Li Longyuan. If we absorb all of this spirit vein, we can produce at least 3 ordinary nascent soul heavenly lords. Zhang Tian revealed a look of deep thought and said, Bai Zai, you're only a nascent soul cultivator. It's far from enough to guard the stellar sky domain or conquer the sea of stars in the future. I think we should cultivate here and break through once. Apart from this giant spirit vein, the Crimson Stone sect's treasure vault had been opened. Many spirit stones, herbs, and artifacts had been moved here. They were piled up like mountains and couldn't be counted. With so many cultivation resources and Zhang Tian's heaven-defying cultivation technique, it wasn't exaggerated to produce 3 nascent soul cultivators. Although cultivation is important, the Kanglin world has been taken over by the Jade Lake. This time, you killed 4 nascent soul heavenly lords, including Emperor Qinqing's woman. With Emperor Qing's vengeful personality, he will definitely lead an army here. How will we have time to cultivate? Bai Zai said anxiously. It won't take too long. I'll teach you the primal chaos creation art. Its devouring ability is amazing. You can devour the entire spirit vein in a year. And with this, Zhang Tian looked calm and unhurried. He flicked his finger and took out the time array disc. What's this? Bai Zai's eyes shone with a strange light and asked curiously. Originally, Bai Zai's personality was simple and crude. He didn't like to use his brain and didn't know much about arrays. However, in the past few years he learned a lot when repairing the damaged heavenly star array. He could tell at a glance that the array disc was extraordinary. Zhang Tian raised his hand and grabbed a Qi cultivator from the prisoner camp in the distance. He imprisoned the cultivator with the forbidden domain and activated the formation plate. With a spin, it arrived above the cultivator's head and unleashed thousands of streaks of auspicious light, enveloping the cultivator like a shield. Senior Tai Chu, please spare my life. The prisoner felt that something was wrong and begged for mercy. Zhang Tian didn't move. Bai Zai saw in shock. The dantian of this cultivator violently rumbled. The true essence and qi and blood in his body rapidly drained away. The strong and bulging muscles on his body shriveled at a speed visible to the naked eye. The violently beating heart gradually became weak and old. The originally straight as a sword body rapidly bent, trembling all over, unable to stand steadily. The firm and glossy skin became gray and wrinkled, and yellowish-brown spots appeared on it. The thick black hair on his head turned gray and then fell off one by one, revealing an ugly scalp. He seemed to have gone through 100 years in the blink of an eye. From a vigorous cultivator in the refinement stage, he had turned into an old man whose eyes were cloudy, his teeth were falling out, and he seemed to be about to run out of energy and pass away in the next moment. This is a time acceleration array disc? Bai Zai was dumbfounded and couldn't believe it. Zhang Tian took back the array disc. The cultivator immediately rolled to the ground and couldn't get up. A few guards came forward and took him away. Zhang Tian said lightly, I just adjusted the speed of the time acceleration array disc to the extreme and reached 100 or 1,000 times faster. He's just an early-stage Qi refinement cultivator. Of course he can't bear it. How terrifying. Bai Zai's heart trembled. He gasped and cold sweat dripped down. Time had always been the most difficult thing to control. Cultivation arts, divine powers, Dharma artifacts and Dharma treasures that involved time were extremely rare in the universe. However, Zhang Tian actually had a time acceleration array disc. Moreover, it was able to achieve such a terrifying time acceleration. If it was used to kill enemies, it would simply be unstoppable. There's such a terrifying array disc on Earth? Bai Zai was dumbfounded and couldn't come back to his senses for a long time. Zhang Tian, you're too lucky. Beside him, Zhang Qianlei was even more envious. He sighed and felt extreme regret. If he knew that following Zhang Tian would allow him to obtain so many powerful Dharma treasures and endless resources, he wouldn't have come to a god-forsaken place like the Crimson Wilderness. Ancient Earth was indeed the ancestral land. It was too mysterious and had a deep heritage. It actually had so many immortal artifacts left behind. Be it the Absolute Heaven Sword or the Time Acceleration Array Disc, they were probably rare even in the ruins of immortality. What was laughable was that many multidimensional world experts had forgotten their ancestors. They had forgotten that ancient Earth was their ancestral land, the source that gave birth to the multidimensional worlds. They treated Earth as a remote and desolate wasteland. They looked down on it and even wanted to invade and occupy it. Only Zhang Tian, who was born on Earth, was filled with love for his homeland and the land that gave birth to it. He would fully excavate Earth's reserves and obtain great blessings. The natural treasures he had were enough to make the ruins' emperor envious. Chapter 1352. My lord, with this array disc you will have the help of God. Bai Zai rubbed his hands like a fly and his saliva almost flowed out. His eyes and heart were filled with greed and passion, and he was full of envy for Zhang Tian. Don't just think about the lethality of the time array disc. Zhang Tian smiled and said, if you adjust the time array disc to a suitable speed, it will greatly increase your cultivation speed. Yes. Bai Zai patted his head and said excitedly. For example, if I adjust it to 10 times the speed, I will only need to cultivate for a month and it will be equivalent to a year. If it's 20 times the speed, it will be even faster. Zhang Tian waved at ancestral patriarch Zhenlong and said, I will also cultivate in seclusion for a month and reach the first level of the golden core level. Zhenlong, go to Kanglan world with Blackie. If you can defeat them, kill all the cultivators of the Jade Lake and close the teleportation array. If you can't defeat them, run back. Zhang Tian had his reasons for making such arrangements. There were 7 heavenly lord families and sects in the Jade Lake, including the Tiandao sect. There were a few nascent soul heavenly lords. Including ancestral patriarch Tai Ri who died in the Tianxing sector, there were already 4. The rest of them were only 2 or 3 big cats and small cats. However, the Jade Lake's territory had expanded too much and the battle line was too long. The Jade Lake and its subordinate 4th-level dimension worlds, plus the Dragon Gate they occupied, all needed heavenly lords to guard. In this way, only 1 or 2 heavenly lords would be given to the Kanglan world. Even though Zhenlong was only at the first level of the nascent soul level, as long as he didn't fight head-on, he could escape unscathed. Yes, master. I will not disappoint you. Ancestral patriarch Zhenlong was shocked. After Zhang Tian formed the Golden Core, he had been stuck at the first level of the Golden Core level, but he could already kill nascent soul overlords and withstand the self-destruction of a nascent soul. If he reached the mid-stage of the Golden Core level this time, he might be able to fight against a mid-stage nascent soul level or even a soul formation overlord. Even though there was only a certain probability, at least there was hope. True dragon, don't worry. You won't fail me this time. Suddenly, a burst of laughter rang out from the distant horizon. From the Heavenly Star Refugee Camp's teleportation array formation, 3 silhouettes soared into the sky, turning into rainbows that pierced through the heavens and earth, leaving long afterimages in the air as they shot over. Nascent Soul Heavenly Monarch. Seeing this kind of powerful aura that could penetrate the heavens and the earth, he was shocked. Baizé was shocked. His pupils suddenly constricted as he stared into the distance and said with full vigilance, "That's right." Could it be that the experts of the Jade Lake have invaded the Heavenly Star and are attacking again? The Dragon Gate and Jade Pool's teleportation array to Heavenly Star has been closed. They had no choice but to forcefully break through the spatial barrier. It's impossible without a few decades. True Dragon Grand Ancestor murmured as he shook his head. Suddenly, joy appeared on his face as he said, Lian Xing, Ta Kong and Mingyi are here. His divine sense was astonishing. Sure enough, he wasn't mistaken. The 3 of them quickly arrived in front of Zhang Tian. They knelt down and said, "Greetings, my lord." 3 more nascent soul stage cultivators. Baizé was stunned. His eyes were wide open. This old demon Zhang is too overbearing. Even his subordinates are nascent soul stage cultivators. Fuck, I don't have any status now. Zhang Qianlei was dumbfounded. He couldn't believe it. They weren't that powerful before. Zhang Tian said, "I took them in West Earth. They were just nascent soul stage cultivators back then, but now they're all nascent soul stage cultivators. The Taichu Dominator is too powerful." Ding Lingdang looked at Zhang Tian with admiration, as if she were a fan who had seen her idol. Lian Xing's aura was vigorous and his eyes were murderous like Vajra's glare. He stepped on the air ethereal, like an immortal, as if he would soar into the sky at any moment. The aura of the Styx River was bleak and murderous, and the aura of death lingered around him. The 3 of them had the temperament of a master craftsman. Their strength was comparable to that of true Dragon Grand Ancestor, and they were much more powerful than Baizé and Zhang Qianlei. They didn't know that these people used to be dominators of a 3rd-level dimension. They didn't want to submit to the rule of the ruins of deity, so they hid in the Thunderlock realm and submitted to Zhang Tian. It turned out that Ding Lai had gone to Earth to invite the 3 old monsters. The 3 old monsters were concerned about the situation here. They were worried that Zhang Tian wouldn't be able to defeat them, so they rushed over to help. They even brought Long Yanan over. This was to make the enemy hesitate or force the enemy to surrender at a critical moment. But they didn't expect that. Zhang Tian was as powerful as a dragon. He killed 4 nascent soul stage cultivators in one night and swept through the entire Crimson Wild world. Fortunately, Navy Tide World hadn't been taken down yet. The 3 of them weren't powerless. Very good. You came just in time. Zhang Tian nodded and smiled. If we only had a 50% chance of winning now that you're all here, taking down Navy Tide World shouldn't be a problem. Go. Yes. The four of them soared into the sky and turned into 4 streaks of light, flying in the direction of the Crimson Stone sect. There was a teleportation formation that led to Navy Tide World. They could enter through this formation and kill the guards of Jade Pool. After the 4 of them left, the ruins were silent. Only Ding Lingdang was left to protect Jiang Tian and the other 2. Lei Xin, Shen Jiuling and other cultivators stood around like guards. However, Jiang Tian wasn't afraid at all. The headquarters of the Crimson Stone sect was 1,000 miles away. Even if Jade Pool's nascent soul stage cultivators entered, Jiang Tian would still have time to sense and react. As for the Crimson Wild World cultivators, they couldn't wait to worship and curry favor with him. None of them dared to provoke him. At this moment, Zhang Qianlei and Bai Zhe looked at each other. They soared into the sky and sat cross-legged in the air. They silently circulated the primal chaos creation art and began to sense and absorb the spiritual energy of the ley lines in warm jade-blessed land. As for Jiang Tian, he also began to sort out his cultivation method. Now that I've cultivated 9 divine bodies and condensed a primal chaos golden core, every galaxy on the primal chaos golden core represents a divine grade golden core and a divine body. Once the silhouette of each galaxy is activated, it has the power to fight against a nascent soul stage cultivator. Jiang Tian frowned as he pondered. However, these 9 galaxies were only the silhouettes of the laws. They hadn't truly formed the laws and condensed the true form of the laws. The reason why Jiang Tian was able to fight against a nascent soul stage cultivator was completely because of the instincts of his divine body. To be exact, it was his innate divine ability. However, the success rate of his innate divine ability wasn't 100%. There was a certain chance of failure. In a battle against a nascent soul stage cultivator, danger was everywhere. As the saying went, one careless move could cause the whole game to be lost. How could there be any mistakes? Now Jiang Tian wanted to further solidify the silhouettes of the laws. Once the silhouettes solidified, they would become true law imprints. The corresponding divine body would also reach the realm of perfection. Only then would Jiang Tian truly have the power of a nascent soul stage cultivator. This was similar to ascending to the height of the laws through thousands of practice. From subconscious instincts to skillful control. Once the laws were formed, every battle would be foolproof. It was an extreme sublimation which would greatly increase Jiang Tian's chances of winning. Besides, only when the 9 types of laws were stable and condensed and formed the true seal of laws and the 9 divine bodies were perfected and flawless could they complement each other. In the end, the core would be broken and the nascent soul would be formed. The 9 orifices divine infant would then be successfully promoted to a divine grade nascent soul. A sacred grade nascent soul stage cultivator was the strongest in the world of cultivation. A deity-grade nascent soul stage cultivator was the seed of a deity. A divine-grade nascent soul stage cultivator was the seed of an immortal. With such a divine-grade seed, the chances of breaking through to the void returning or Tao reunion level and eventually going through the tribulation to ascend to the deity realm would be almost 100%. It would be far more powerful than a deity-grade nascent soul stage cultivator. It would even have the chance to continuously evolve and ascend to the divine realm. With the supreme divine grade nascent soul as the foundation and the divine grade nascent 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 divine grade. Then he would be able to climb to the top of the universe one day and look down on billions of galaxies, laying the foundation for all eternity. Once a divine grade nascent soul was formed, even the divine princes and divine fetuses in the deity realm and the divine realm wouldn't be able to compare. That would greatly increase the chances of Jiang Tian ascending to the divine realm. To a certain extent, once a divine-grade nascent soul was formed, Jiang Tian would be no different from the children of true gods. He might even be better in some aspects. After all, the children of true gods were only the second generation of true gods. They were like flowers in a greenhouse. They had never been tempered and were still lacking in terms of stability and battle experience. On the other hand, Zhang Tian was truly a first-generation sky god. Chapter 1353. However, being the son of a true god also had his advantages. Not only did he have a divine-grade golden core or nascent soul, he also had a divine body, divine meridians and divine souls. It could be said that Zhang Tian's cultivation wasn't done blindly or in a hurry for quick success. Instead, it was carefully planned and steady. Every step he took was incomparably firm. From the beginning of his cultivation, Zhang Tian's goal was to become the strongest in the universe. If Zhang Tian hadn't pursued excellence and perfection, he would have been too slow. If he had only pursued breakthroughs and speed, he would have broken through to the nascent soul level or even a half-soul formation level with the resources he had obtained from the other dimensions. The time array plate floated above his head and spun slowly. Rays of light formed a light curtain that enveloped Zhang Tian. 9 transformations of the divine plate. Every time it spins, it forms a true seal of Dharma laws. It's like refining a golden core to the golden core peak stage or even the nascent soul level. Zhang Tian looked at it and exclaimed, "The resources I've used are enormous. Luckily, I've searched the heavenly star world, heavenly country, West Earth and the red field world and broken the deity trap array. The resources I've obtained are enough for me to break through at least once." Whoosh! Zhang Tian patted the sky-swallowing demon gourd and a golden tower appeared in his hand. "What's that?" In the distance, Ding Ling Dang and Zhang Qianlei were startled. The ancient pagoda emitted endless golden light and was filled with thousands of auspicious colors. It was yellow, shiny, and incomparably smooth. However, it was as heavy as a mountain, as if it was made of gold and was formed by the condensation of endless golden cores. Golden core. That's right. Right then, there was no other word that could describe the tower better in everyone's eyes. Because this ancient pagoda exuded an aura of immortality, indestructibility, eternity and unbelievably sturdiness. It was extremely similar to a golden core. This pagoda was none other than the 10,000 Buddha's relic pagoda. It was the treasure of the Golden Rock Temple on West Earth Mountain. It was said to have been made with 10,000 golden cores of eminent monks. Of course, in Zhang Tian's eyes, it was definitely an exaggeration to say that 10,000 Sarira golden cores were condensed. As for the real number, it was bound to be greatly reduced. After all, in the history of Golden Rock Temple, there were probably only a few dozen golden elixirs. This was understandable. If Golden Rock Temple wanted to suppress West Earth, it naturally had to exaggerate its strength and foundation. Otherwise, how could they convince the masses? How could they suppress the thousands of sects and clans? How could they suppress the cultivators, mortals, and hundreds of millions of other creatures? However, he could not underestimate the 10,000 Buddha relic pagoda because of this. It also contained the blood essence of many eminent monks and the demonic cores of demonic beasts. It was not an exaggeration to say that it contained the power of at least 100 golden cores. Furthermore, later on, Zhang Tian had also refined the gold cores of certain quality that he had obtained from killing people everywhere. Only the inferior ones would be refined into pills for the large black dog or eaten raw. Even the nascent soul essence of Duanmu Guang and the other nascent soul cultivators that he had killed had been refined and stored. If that was the case, this pagoda would have at least 1,000 ordinary golden cores. Rumble. At this time, Zhang Tian had already cultivated to the golden core realm. If he continued to cultivate, how terrifying would his power be? Under everyone's astonished gazes. As Zhang Tian circulated the primal chaos creation art, the 10,000 Buddha relic pagoda instantly cracked and shattered. A terrifying shockwave was instantly formed, as if hundreds of small nuclear weapons had exploded. The golden essence chi of the gold cores and nascent souls rolled out like raging waves, sweeping away everything within a radius of 100 miles. At this moment, violent winds howled and sand and stones flew everywhere. Heaven and earth were in chaos. Even the sky trembled violently as if it was about to be torn apart by a hurricane. It exploded directly? Bai Zai and Zhang Qianlei turned pale with fright as they were thrown off their feet. The power of this 10,000 Buddha relic pagoda was actually so terrifying. If it was to be absorbed and refined, then it would naturally have to be polished, sliced and refined. How could it be blasted apart so cleanly like this? Dare I ask you, old demon Jiang, are you cultivating or committing suicide? However, Zhang Tian, who was only a foot away from the 10,000 Buddha relic pagoda, seemed as if a cool breeze was blowing against his face. His expression was still as calm as water, and he wasn't affected in the slightest. Only his clothes and long hair lightly fluttered. As for Bai Zhe and Zhang Qianlei, after retreating more than 100 meters, they were immediately fixed in the air. The golden essence qi of the golden core relics swept past them 3 meters away, unable to penetrate even the slightest bit. Master used the forbidden zone to protect us. This is unbelievable. Only a fiend like him would dare to do this. Zhang Qianlei and Bai Zhe's foreheads were covered in sweat. They were extremely terrified. The next moment, Zhang Tian used the forbidden zone again. The golden core and nascent soul essence within a 10-kilometer radius froze and floated in the air like golden clouds, enveloping Zhang Tian. Follow. Zhang Tian used the Tao Tai returns to its essence. A vortex that resembled a black hole appeared in his dantian, containing an extremely terrifying devouring power. Moreover, the vortex continued to expand, instantly forming a radius of 1 kilometer. Instantly, the black hole vortex sucked in the endless golden core essence like a whale sucking in water. The colorful golden core and nascent soul essence surged towards the black vortex like a tide. Finally, it gathered at the center of the vortex, Zhang Tian's dantian. In just a few seconds, there wasn't a single drop of the endless golden core essence left. At this moment in Zhang Tian's dantian, the golden core essence qi was surging like a tide. Even in his meridians, there was an endless amount of essence qi surging endlessly, making a rumbling sound that could be heard for 100 miles. Crack. Suddenly, several cracks appeared in Zhang Tian's dantian. Zhang Tian's body suddenly expanded rapidly, turning into a 10-meter-tall giant. His dantian also expanded as runes flickered and intertwined around the cracks, trying to forcefully mend and heal them. However, just as the cracks in his dantian closed, they opened again. Boom! Endless golden core essence gushed out of the cracks and exploded. At this moment, sand and stones flew everywhere, the mountains boiled, the sky distorted, and the sun and stars blurred. In fact, cracks began to appear on the surface of Zhang Tian's body. His skin cracked as though it was about to explode. Oh no! Master's dantian is damaged. I've already told you, biting off more than you can chew. How can you do this? At the side, Bai Zhe and Zhang Qianlei were shocked and horrified. Lei Xin, Shen Jiuling, and the other guards' expressions changed drastically, as though they were facing a great enemy. What should we do? Outside, Ding Lingdang was helpless and was so anxious that she was tearing up. Master, you're too greedy and rash. Many Xia cultivators who pretended to be Dao protectors but were actually secretly learning from the great Dao side. From the perspective of an ordinary cultivator. At this moment, Zhang Tian's breakthrough had already failed and there was even a danger of his cultivation level dropping significantly. The essence and essence qi gathered in the 10,000 Buddha relic pagoda was truly terrifying. At this moment, it was like a nuclear explosion, exploding, surging and wreaking havoc in Zhang Tian's dantian and every part of his body. Any cultivator, even a nascent soul heavenly lord or a soul formation grand cultivator, would have to carefully absorb and refine such powerful energy. It would take them 10 years or even longer, but Zhang Tian was doing it like a cow chewing a peony. It was like a mortal eating a set meal for 10 people in one go. His stomach would definitely explode. That was because Zhang Tian had the support of 9 divine bodies and the Taotius essence restoration was constantly suppressing and devouring. If it was a normal cultivator, even a nascent soul or soul formation cultivator, his body would probably explode and die within a few seconds. The essence qi of 5 nascent soul cultivators and a few hundred golden cores is enough to scare you? In my opinion, it's not enough. Don't be nervous. Focus on cultivating. I have a way to deal with it. However, Zhang Tian, who was at the center, looked calm and smiled leisurely. He quickly came up with 2 countermeasures. First, he took out 10 Butian pills and swallowed them. Then he pointed at the time array disc and activated it. Boom. The instant Zhang Tian swallowed the 10 heaven-mending pills, it was as if the heavens and earth were falling apart. An incomparably vast amount of spiritual energy exploded within Zhang Tian's body. However, the spirit qi didn't further damage Zhang Tian's dantian. Instead, they interweaved and pulled at the damaged parts of his dantian and body like threads, quickly repairing them. All the cracks were repaired in the blink of an eye. Moreover, they emitted a dazzling divine radiance seeming to be several times tougher than before. The moment Zhang Tian's dantian closed. Refine. Zhang Tian's face was like iron, without the slightest trace of expression. However, within his eyes, there was a sharp and firm cold light. Chapter 1354. Rumble. Zhang Tian's dantian let out a thunderous roar that echoed for 100 miles. Immediately, Zhang Tian used the chaotic creation art, and the endless golden core essence qi was quickly absorbed by Zhang Tian, forming his true essence. The time array was 10 times faster, and 3 days were equivalent to a month in the outside world. 3 days later, the vast golden core essence qi in the 10,000 Buddha relic pagoda was all refined into Zhang Tian's true essence. The true essence didn't have any attributes at first. It was like a chaotic energy. But at this moment, within Zhang Tianju's dantian, the divine disk spun, and the golden river of stars slowly shook. Endless gung metal true yuan erupted, and a gung metal divine general appeared behind Zhang Tianju. The divine general was wearing a golden helmet and golden armor. It was as tall as a mountain, and it shone brightly, as if it were completely made of a golden core. It emitted an indestructible and powerful energy and looked 80% similar to Zhang Tian. Everyone was dumbfounded. Unexpectedly, the gung metal divine general also had a dantian in his body. There was a gung metal golden core in the dantian, and it absorbed all the attributeless vital essence from Zhang Tianju's dantian and turned it into gung metal vital essence. Another 10 days later, all the true essence in Zhang Tian's dantian was absorbed and refined by the divine general Gung Jin. The golden core in divine general Gung Jin's dantian formed the shape of a golden fetus. Boom! The golden fetus raised its head and roared at the sky. It shone with boundless radiance as it trembled and rumbled. The aura of the Gingjin divine general behind Zhang Tian also rose steadily, as if it would never end, as if it could lift up the sky. Under everyone's shocked gaze, it shot up endlessly and illuminated the sky, as if it were going to break the barrier of the dimension and reach an unprecedented height. Right then, the divine general Gung Jin didn't use any divine powers, but the energy it released was much more powerful than Duanmu Guang and the others. It made the sky shake, and everything in 100-mile radius trembled as if there was an earthquake. Gingjin had even doubled in size, and it was like a mountain of gold and jade that held up the sky. Moreover, it had become material to the extreme, dazzling and resplendent, and it illuminated the heavens and the earth and illuminated the sun and moon. He formed the nascent soul in 13 days. That's terrifying. Everyone was terrified and they couldn't believe it. In fact, even though only 13 days had passed in the outside world, Zhang Tian had cultivated for more than 4 months with the help of the time array. But no one knew that. They only thought that Zhang Tian formed the nascent soul in 13 days. How could they not be shocked? Besides, even if Zhang did take 4 months' true essence, it would still be a record-breaking achievement. Even among the peerless sects in the central galaxy, it was extremely rare and eye-catching. This is only the Grand Primordium Sovereign's first nascent soul formation divine body, but it already has such terrifying power. If all 9 of them formed their nascent souls at the same time, how terrifying would that be? Bai Zhe saw it more deeply, but his heart was even more shocked. Still not enough. At this moment, Zhang Tian slowly opened his eyes. A hint of determination flashed in his eyes as he said calmly, "Don't worry. The gung metal divine body has yet to reach perfection. Today I'll use this warm jade spiritual vein to push him to perfection." At this moment, Zhang Tian had 8 other divine bodies and 8 galaxies on the Master Deity's golden core, which represented 8 different golden cores. Just the Gingjin divine general, who had successfully formed his nascent soul, was enough to kill a nascent soul cultivator as easily as killing a chicken. However, Zhang Tian was still not satisfied. The first divine body that Zhang Tian condensed was the gung metal divine body. Although the gung metal divine body had the name of a divine body, it was actually one of the 12 most powerful immortal bodies and not a true divine body. However, at that time Zhang Tian had very few cultivation resources and he was facing many powerful enemies, so he could only make do with what he had. The gung metal divine body had been nourished endlessly and it was the first to reach the phenomenal success level. That day Zhang Tian was determined to push it to perfection. Taotai returns. Jiang Tian reached out his hand. All of a sudden the entire warm jade-blessed land trembled. Boundless earth lung qi and boundless spiritual qi turned into red clouds that flowed into Jiang Tian's body like a great river. In the end, the spirit qi of different colors in the vast barren world, including the earth, fire, wood and yin malice qi, formed a howling hurricane from all directions and poured into Jiang Tian's body. The essence qi in a few hundred miles was taken by Jiang Tian. Countless spirit herbs, desolate wood and spirit herbs on the oasis let out crackling sounds and instantly withered, turning into spirit qi that merged into the great tide. Jiang Tian was like a black hole, crazily sucking in all the energy around him. Many Foundation establishment and Golden Core demonic beasts were scared out of their wits and ran away crazily. Ding Ling Dang and the others also retreated a few hundred miles before they managed to stop themselves. Forming the nascent soul is nothing. This time, Master is really going to enter the forbidden area of the nascent soul realm and form his own laws. Bai Zhe looked up in shock with anticipation. While Jiang Tian was cultivating in seclusion in the warm jade-blessed land of the barren world, ancestral patriarch Shenlong and the other old monsters had already killed a nascent soul ancestral patriarch of the Jade Lake world and conquered the Kanglan world. Also, the news of the 4 heavenly lords and the fall of the barren world had already spread throughout the Jade Lake world, shocking everyone again. In fact, there were very few details when the news of Star World first came. Many people thought that the Stellar Sky Domain and Kong Techu had used some tricks or powerful true artifacts to kill ancestral patriarch Binding Sun, Chen Liuhe, and the other Jade Lake cultivators. Although they hated Jiang Tian, there was still a trace of contempt in their bones. 3 heavenly lords and ancestral patriarch who she even brought the supreme grade true artifact ancestral dragon rhinoceros head. Together with ancestral patriarch Xianxia from the barren world, there are 4 nascent soul realm cultivators in total. This is like using a sledgehammer to kill a chicken. It's not just using a sledgehammer to kill a chicken, it's using a true artifact to kill a mosquito. That Kong Techu will definitely be crushed. I think that Kong Techu relied on tricks to win. Do we still need the ancestral patriarchs? I'm just a second stage Golden Core realm cultivator, and I'm confident that I can crush him. That's right. This is the 12th level of success. It's foolproof. You have to know that Ancestral Patriarch Duanmu and the others have the help of Ancestral Patriarch Xianxia. They also have the home ground advantage and many Golden Core and Foundation establishment cultivators from the barren world are cooperating with them. This is the wisdom of the Azure the Arch. When a tiger fights a rabbit, it has to use all its strength. Although Kong Techu is just an insignificant ant, we still have to stretch out all 5 fingers and crush him to death. Many Jade Lake cultivators didn't take Jiang Tian seriously. They were full of confidence and were determined to win. The difficulty of reaching the nascent soul realm was as difficult as reaching the heavens. There was usually only one nascent soul realm cultivator among hundreds of millions of cultivators. They had high positions and were the nobles and officials of this world. They looked down on hundreds of millions of living beings. With a stomp of their feet, this world would tremble. The strength of a nascent soul realm cultivator was even more unimaginable. With one attack, 10 miles of land would be turned into dust. It would spread to a radius of 100 miles. It would be easy to destroy cities and countries. With such a luxurious lineup of 4 nascent soul realm cultivators attacking, Kong Techu was just an ant from the Earth world. How could he withstand it? Even the Duanmu clan, Thousand Tails Shin clan, Dragon Rhinoceros Hu clan, Huangfu clan, and other clans that were originally gloomy became joyful and full of vigor. They were waiting for the ancestral patriarchs to return in triumph and sharpen their blades until they were as bright as snow. They were only waiting for them to take Kong Techu to this world and torture him for thousands of years. This time, with the 3 heavenly monarchs attacking, Kong Techu will definitely die. Taking down the Stellar Sky Domain will also be a piece of cake. Once we take down the Stellar Sky Domain, we can kill our way to the Earth world through the teleportation array and slaughter all the animals and ants there. Not even a single Chinese alligator will be left. Some cultivators clamored. Could be said that Star World had never been as important as it was today. In the 4th level dimension that they controlled, the ancient teleportation arrays from the Kanglan world and the barren world to Earth were all destroyed. Now the Stellar Sky Domain was the only passage from the Jade Lake to the Earth world. Of course, to the Earth world it was also the last fortress. Once it was broken, the ruins of immortality and the other dimensional worlds would be completely connected to the Earth world. Revenge. Revenge. Kong Teichu plotted against our Jade Lake's Six Directions crown prince and killed 300,000 soldiers. We will take revenge 10 times, 100 times. We will let them know that our cultivation world is not to be trifled with. Yes, we will kill every single one of them and turn them into a completely lifeless planet of death. There were even some commanders and generals who were preparing their horses and troops, waiting for the dawn to come. They cleaned up the Cultivator army, rubbed their palms and trained all day long. They were only waiting for the heavenly monarchs to kill Kong Teichu and regain control of the Stellar Sky Domain. Then, through the Stellar Sky Domain they would go straight to the Earth world and start a massacre. Just as many forces thought that Kong Teichu would definitely lose this time and were waiting for good news. Suddenly, on the teleportation array platform leading to the barren world, a group of injured soldiers appeared. Their armor was broken, their bodies were stained with blood, their bones were broken and they looked extremely miserable. Kong Teichu killed Duanmu Guang, Xin Jingjing, Hu Shi and the Red Cloud ancestor from the barren world. The barren world has fallen. In addition, the Kanglan world has also fallen. Suddenly, 4 nascent soul realm old monsters appeared. They are extremely powerful and despicable. When the news spread, everyone was dumbfounded and couldn't believe it. The Jade Lake cultivators who had previously vowed that Jiang Tian would definitely lose and were flaunting their strength and talking nonsense. After hearing the news, their expressions were even more unsightly, as if they were constipated. I really fucked 100 Chinese alligators. They felt like they had eaten a few flies, like they had been slapped in the face, or like they had accidentally fucked 100 strange beasts. Chapter 1355. How is this possible? Kong Teichu is just an ant from the Earth domain. How can he kill 4 ancestors? Lying about military intelligence is a capital offense. Even the cultivators of the Qi world didn't believe it, let alone the cultivators of the Jade Pool. They thought highly of themselves. Not to mention the Earth domain and Kong Teichu, even the Stellar Sky domain was just a remote place in their eyes. The cultivators there were just ants and dust. If the Azure the Arch wasn't crazy and wanted to take down the Earth domain, they wouldn't even bother to look at it. They didn't send back details last time, but it was different this time. This time, Jiang Tian and the others didn't close the teleportation array immediately. They even deliberately let them pass the message. So, many shocking news came out one after another. Kong Teichu has 4 nascent soul realm old monsters under his command. They attacked the Kanglan world. An army of 50,000 cultivators and more than 10 peak stage golden core realm cultivators were annihilated. Kong Teichu is only a golden core realm cultivator, but he can form and destroy forbidden regions. Fairy Jingjing was crushed by him. Kong Teichu even threatened that he would personally go to the Jade Pool within a month to ask the Azure the Arch for invading his territory. These news were more shocking than the previous. It was like an earth-shattering shock and people couldn't recover from it. Xin Jingjing, that's the future empress. She was actually killed. How can the Azure the Arch let him go? Those who heard it all gasped as if they were struck by lightning and turned into clay statues. The Jade Pool world was a 3rd-grade dimensional world, and it was the most outstanding existence in the 3rd-grade dimensional world. The Dao land here was vast, the spirit energy was like clouds and mist, the spirit springs were like rivers and waterfalls, and the spirit herbs and spirit pills were as abundant as the sea. All the major inheritances were prosperous and developed. In 2,000 years, it actually surpassed many 2nd-grade dimensional worlds and produced 10 nascent soul realm cultivators. This result was enough to be compared with the 2nd-grade dimensional worlds and top all the 3rd-grade dimensional worlds. But they were actually defeated by Kong Teichu. What did Kong Teichu have? What did the Earth domain and the Stellar Sky domain have? It was like the white residents in Washington who thought highly of themselves were dumbfounded and could not believe it when they heard that a primitive tribe in Africa had produced a few Harvard professors or Nobel Prize winners. What did he say? He said that he would come to the Jade Lake world within a month to question His Majesty the Azure the Arch. Is he crazy? Especially the last piece of news. Not only was it shocking, it was also infuriating. You're just an ant from the Earth world, yet you've killed several giants of the Jade Lake world. You've offended your superiors and your crime is unforgivable. Now not only are you not fearful, remorseful and bowing your head, you are provoking us again, swaggering your way to our door. You're courting death in fancy ways. However, at this moment, compared to the boisterous low-level cultivators, several famous heavenly monarch families and sects maintained a strange silence and did not make a sound easily. In the Huangfu clan of the Heaven Monarch, on a mountain peak that was shrouded by spirit energy like clouds, orchids swayed gently and dragon-like spirit vines coiled and climbed on the mountain walls. Clear spirit spring water flowed on the clean boulders, and essence waterfalls fell like silver threads. Cranes flew in the forest and auspicious beasts ran around. 3 ancestor-level powerhouses were sitting cross-legged on a huge blue stone. Their expressions were serene, like old monks who had entered a meditative state. Duanmu Guang, Huxi, Xin Jingjing and ancestral patriarch Xianxia. Those 4 are all nascent soul heavenly lords who can cast forbidden realms. They've all been killed. This Jiang Taichu has really pierced the heavens. An ancestral patriarch on the right suddenly sensed something and said with a bit of surprise. This old man has never thought that there would be such a terrifying being on earth. Could it be that the legend is actually true? What should we do? He had even killed that vixen Xin Jingjing. His Majesty Emperor Qing would definitely be furious. Besides, Pingtian was also killed by him. Are we, the Huangfu family, going to hold our noses and bear with it? An old woman on the left frowned. The legend of the pregnant deity is too vague and unreal. Let's not talk about it for now. The patriarch in the middle pondered for a moment. His sharp eyes were filled with worry, and his expression was slightly solemn. However, Kong Teichu was able to kill Duanmu Guang and the other ancestral patriarchs. We're about the same level as ancestral patriarch Duanmu. This means that Kong Teichu can also kill us. Half of the nascent soul heavenly lords in the Jade Lake world have died. If Qin doesn't ask for help, he won't win. We just need to wait and see. After all, this world belongs to the Qin family after all. Yes. After the 3 old men finished their discussion, they closed their eyes and continued to cultivate. Their auras were like old turtles, faintly discernible. They didn't mention Huangfu Pingtian's death again. Which heavenly lord family didn't have deep roots? They had many talents and cultivated an echelon of heirs. Firstly, it was to divide the power. Secondly, it was to make them compete with each other to make contributions for the family. Thirdly, it was to reduce the risk. If only one elite died, there would be no successor. If Huangfu Pingtian died, then so be it. Immediately, there would be other descendants with talents that weren't inferior to him to take his place. This was the only way to ensure that the lineage of the clan continued to be passed down, and the clan's luck would flourish for a long time. As a nascent soul heavenly lord family, they weren't stupid. To fight to the death with Jiang Tian over a small grudge and let others benefit from it, surpassing them from behind. That was the worst plan. This was also the reason why the Huangfu family didn't do much when the Duanmu family, the Xin family and the Hu family asked their ancestral patriarchs to kill Jiang Tian. However, if Qin had a high chance of winning, they would definitely come out to suppress Jiang Tian and occupy the inferior worlds. However, the Duanmu family, the Xin family and the Hu family had suffered heavy losses in this battle, but they kept silent. Jiang Tian had killed 4 heavenly lords and had a mysterious nascent soul cultivator with him. His power was too terrifying. This changed their attitude towards Jiang Tian from extreme disdain to extreme caution. They carefully evaluated Jiang Tian's power and didn't come up with a plan. Just as the entire Jade Lake fell into a strange silence and no one made a sound, a voice rang out. In the depths of the Tiandao sect, Emperor Qin Qing's angry roar came from the Tiandao Palace, which was like a bronze immortal palace. Jiang Taichu, you killed my son and woman. This enmity is as deep as the sea. I will not rest until you are dead. Do you think I'll wait for you to come to the Jade Lake? What a joke. At this moment, Emperor Qin felt like his heart was being cut by a knife. His hatred for Jiang Tian was so deep that even the water of the heavenly river couldn't wash it away. He gnashed his teeth, his eyes spitting out flames of fury. His face, which hadn't seemed to be affected by the collapse of the world and the extinction of thousands of races for thousands of years, was twisted like an evil ghost at the moment. I'm going to go to the Stellar Sky sector and the Earth sector. I'll kill all your family, friends and all the people on Earth. He yelled to the sky and his voice was heard 100 miles away. The mountains shook violently and the entire Jade Lake world was shocked. Kong Teichu, I'm going to take out your divine soul and let you watch how your family and friends are killed by me. After hearing that, the entire Jade Lake was shocked. Countless people looked serious. They knew the top sect of the Jade Lake was finally going to stand up and take control of the Jade Lake. If Emperor Qin went to the Jade Lake world in person, the situation would immediately change. Emperor Qin had already entered the mid-stage of the nascent soul level. In terms of power, many ancestral patriarchs couldn't compare to him. More importantly, he had received countless resources from the 100 Moon Academy and formed a 7th grade golden core. The grade of the nascent soul was determined when the golden core was formed. This meant that the Ruins Emperor's nascent soul was much more powerful than others. His combat power was almost invincible among his peers. In the 100 Moon Academy, he had even received guidance from the Ruins Emperor, who had truly mastered the laws and principles. He was called the Ruins Emperor's disciple and the Ruins Emperor's direct descendant among the realm lords. His power had reached an unimaginable level. Just when everyone thought that Emperor Qin would immediately send out his army and start a shocking war to kill the people of the Stellar Sky sector, what was strange was that Tiandao sect once again fell into a strange silence. Emperor Qin had also ordered that the family heads and the sect masters of the heavenly sects couldn't go out easily and had to wait for orders in Heaven Capital. Heaven Capital was the capital of the Jade Lake dynasty and the most prosperous city in the Jade Lake world. It was located at the foot of the Kuanyun mountain where the Tiandao sect was located. This was the Jade Lake world, the place where cultivation and the secular world intersected. In short, the Tiandao sect was the leader of the cultivation world in the Jade Lake world. And the star capital was the place where the highest authority of the secular world was located. All the major states had set up their envoys here. All the major sects and clans had also sent their representatives here. Even the headquarters of all the major trading companies were gathered here. But today, the atmosphere in Heaven Capital was solemn. The streets that used to be crowded with pedestrians and the sky that used to be filled with cultivators riding on swords were now empty. There were only dozens of surveillance flying ships that were emitting colorful lights patrolling back and forth. On the flying ships, there was an army of cultivators wearing dazzling golden armor with dragon patterns carved on it. They wore steel helmets, held long halberds in their hands and had long swords and bows at their waists. They had high noses, deep eyes and colorful hair. Obviously, they were not cultivators from the Jade Lake world. But each of them had a stern expression and a murderous aura. Their aura soared into the sky as pairs of sharp eyes scanned the surroundings. In the city, any cultivator flying on swords was immediately captured and killed. What's going on? What kind of big shot is coming? Why is there such a strict martial law? I heard that a young master of the Duanmu family was angry because his cousin Duanmu Ci died in battle. He drank too much and rode on his sword to the Tiandao palace. He said that he had something to report, but he was killed on the spot. Even the imperial guards of Emperor Qin couldn't stop him. Or rather, they didn't dare to stop him at all. Even the imperial guards didn't give him face. It seems that this group of people is not from the imperial palace. What kind of big shot is coming to make such a big scene? Many cultivators of the Jade Lake were talking about it. They were confused and felt uneasy. The entire Heaven Capital and even the Jade Lake continent. It was shrouded in a gloomy atmosphere as if it was the last calm before the storm. Chapter 1356. The Jade Lake world was a federated country made up of many states. Emperor Qin was the supreme emperor and the realm master. A group of heavenly lord families and sects each occupied a state, listening to his orders and working for him. Those family masters and sect masters were also nobles and officials, forming the daily management structure. Jiang Tian had killed 3 nascent soul heavenly lords in the battle in the Chia world, as if nascent soul cultivators were normal. But in fact that wasn't the case at all. Not to mention the Jade Lake world, even in the grade 2-dimensional world and the famous ruins of immortality, a nascent soul stage cultivator was still a big shot. There were only a handful of them in the Jade Lake. However, at this moment the few remaining nascent soul heavenly lords in this world, including the Huangfu family and the Duanmu family, were standing respectfully in the reception hall of the Heavenly Tao Palace, not daring to make a sound. Both of them controlled great sects and countries. If they stomped their feet, the entire Jade Lake, which spanned tens of thousands of miles, would tremble uneasily and set off monstrous waves. However, at this moment they were trembling and their legs went soft. They didn't even have the courage to look at the two people sitting in front of them. Only Emperor Qingqing and a young woman were sitting face to face. Emperor Qingqing's body was lofty and majestic like a mountain. The pressure of the middle stage of the nascent soul realm was rolling like a lonely peak overlooking the world. Countless mysterious and sacred auras lingered and filled the place, turning it into a holy land. If Duanmu Ting were here, he would be forced to kneel on the ground and could not even stand up. The woman in front of him looked to be in her 20s. Her streamlined golden armor with 9 dragon patterns accentuated her proud figure. Her waist was slender and she was sexy to the extreme. She also gave people an inviolable and heroic feeling. The woman's skin was fair and her features were picturesque. She had a pretty face, but her every movement was elegant and neat. She was mature, steady, and graceful. Her energy was as powerful as Emperor Qingqing's, as if she could control everything and command billions of troops. It seemed that she didn't care about a country, a sect, or billions of entities. Such energy couldn't be faked at all. Only after experiencing the vicissitudes of life, the cruel tempering of the flames of war, the cruel tempering of iron and blood, could it be developed naturally. They had been chatting for a long time. At this time, Emperor Qingqing suddenly stood up and bowed apologetically. Your sister went to Star World to train, but she was captured by that evil thief Kong Teichu. It's my Emperor Qingqing's fault for not taking good care of her. However, Fairy, don't worry. This time I will personally lead the army and bring your sister back safely. Not a single strand of her hair will be lost. Otherwise, I will allow Fairy to punish me. He was the lord of a realm and he ruled over a vast territory with billions of subjects. His status was supreme, yet at this moment his attitude was humble before this woman, and he respected her as if she was a god. If this scene were to spread outside, it would probably shock a group of people, and none of the Jade Lake's cultivators would dare to believe it. However, the other nascent soul heavenly lords didn't show any disdain or confusion. They all thought it was reasonable. Because this woman was none other than Long Xingnan, the daughter of the Dragon Clan sect master, the top orthodoxy in the ocean wave dimension. Besides, she had many other identities. She was the first person to form a 9th-grade golden core in the ruins of deity and all the 2nd-grade worlds in 300 years, the youngest nascent soul cultivator, and the overlord on the God of War list that the Emperor of the Ruins had personally named. An elite disciple of the inner sect of the Emperor of the Ruins Palace. Her 9 Dragons Emperor technique was an upper-grade technique that was not far from the Saint grade. It allowed her to condense a true dragon golden core, unleash a true dragon Dharma idol, and control thousands of dragons and beasts. She was as powerful as a nascent soul cultivator. She wasn't even 30 years old, but with her nascent soul cultivation, she had once subdued an imperishable orthodoxy that had rebelled against the Emperor of the Ruins. There were only a few young people as talented as her in the ruins of deity, not to mention the Jade Lake or the ocean wave dimension. That was why the Emperor of the Ruins had personally named her, and she had the honor of being listed on the God of War list of the ruins of deity with her nascent soul cultivation. Not only Long Xingnan, there were 2 servants standing behind her, a man and a woman. The man was tall and strong like a mountain. His hair was twisted and coiled, which turned out to be black dragons. He apparently already had the power of a 3rd-level nascent soul cultivator. The girl was still young, but she had a voluptuous figure. Her appearance didn't match her age. Her skin was like ice and her bones were like jade. Her beauty was unparalleled, and she could be compared to the most eye-catching female cultivators in the Jade Lake realm. Her aura was deep and unfathomable. Facing Long Xingnan from the 2nd-grade world. They were like a group of local officials facing a princess on an inspection tour. They were really scared, as if they were treading on thin ice. How would they dare to act recklessly? Even Duanmu Ling, the current family master of the Duanmu family, who had reached the half-step nascent soul level, took a few steps forward and knelt in front of the woman. He trembled and said, "According to our investigation, Goddess Yanan fell into the enemy's hands under the hands of my useless son, Duanmu Ci. The Duanmu family is guilty. Goddess Xingnan, please punish us. Family Master Duanmu, please rise. Long Xingnan forced a smile and said gently, when the nest is overturned, no egg can escape unscathed. The Jade Lake army was defeated. Even His Highness Lu He and the 4 nascent soul cultivators died bravely in battle. It's obvious that the enemy is fierce and powerful. You have done your best. It's not your fault. Thank you for not killing us, Goddess Xingnan. From now on, the Duanmu family will fight for the ruins Emperor Qing and the Hailan world. Family Master Duanmu finally dared to rise. He secretly wiped the cold sweat on his forehead and secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Emperor Qing's face was full of shame. His eyes were filled with anger. This defeat was too dismal. Most importantly, he had lost to an ant from Earth. It was the biggest joke in the world. It made him a laughingstock in the eyes of many experts. Although Long Xingnan was talented and had a high position, her words and actions were very appropriate. She was definitely not as arrogant and rude as her sister. She sipped her tea gently and said with a smile on her face, "You're right. Besides, Yanan has always been reckless and impulsive. She will get into trouble sooner or later. Being captured today is a rare lesson and experience for her. It will let her know that there is always someone better than her." At this moment, Emperor Qing said in a low voice, "Goddess Xingnan, that Kong Teichu is just an ant from Earth. Yet he has repeatedly offended the heavenly might. His crimes are unforgivable. This sinner has gathered his army and is preparing to attack Star World directly. However, even though he was born in a humble place, his strength is indeed not to be underestimated. The battle report shows that he is actually able to execute and break the Forbidden Region. Fairy Xingnan, please lend us a helping hand. Cut that Jiang Taichu into pieces and wipe out the Stellar Sky Domain and Earth Domain." He was the lord of a domain. He was like a god. He was supreme. However, at this moment, there was a hint of sincerity in his eyes. However, the many heavenly sect masters, family heads, and nascent soul cultivators were not surprised or shocked. Instead, they all looked at Long Xingnan. Their eyes were full of enthusiasm and anticipation. It was no wonder. This woman was not only a peerless talent on the war god list of the ruins of immortals, but also the most beautiful woman in the Hailan world. It was rumored that Su Xinghua, Junao Jian, Chu Lianqing, and Xiao Tianhe, who were ranked at the top of the God of War list, were her confidants. They usually discussed Tao and treated each other with respect. They had a deep relationship or they were madly in love with her. They wanted to win her favor and become her Tao companion. It could be said that this woman had a wide range of friends not only in the Hailan world, but also in the other 4 second-class dimensions and even the ruins of immortals. Emperor Qing completely believed that as long as she was willing to go with the army, she could attract at least a few powerhouses on the war god list of the ruins of immortals. The conditions to be on the war god list were harsh. Generally, one had to live less than 300 years and be at least in the nascent soul realm. They were the young talents of the ruins of immortals and the future mainstays. These overlords on the war god list might not be comparable to late-stage nascent soul overlords like Emperor Qing, or even living fossils like Hu Shi and Duanmu Guang. However, they were all from heavenly lord families or the unparalleled heavenly sect. Some of them even had soul formation overlords in the imperishable sections. They were the future and the seeds of their families and were extremely precious. Once they went out, their sects would send nascent soul heavenly lords to protect them. In this way, the forces involved would be 10 times more powerful. It could be said that as long as Long Xingnan followed the army into battle, she would be able to win a great battle with a small group of nascent soul powerhouses. It was equivalent to 2 or 3 worlds like the Jade Lake attacking Jiangtian together. At that time, it would be a dimensional reduction attack and a crushing momentum. Emperor Qing, you're making a big deal out of nothing. Long Xingnan said gently. The competition between cultivation forces is different from that in the mortal world. You have to catch the leader first and only kill the leader. We don't want to turn the mortal world upside down, shatter the mountains and rivers, burn the land and make the people miserable. We shouldn't suppress the ants of the mortal world by force. Instead, we should be soft and benevolent. On the other hand, as long as we kill Kong Teichu, the stellar sky domain and the earth domain will be leaderless and collapse without a fight. Then we can use the art of benevolence to make those stragglers and mortals feel grateful and obedient. This way we can achieve twice the result with half the effort and achieve long-term stability. Therefore this time I plan to personally meet Jiang Taichu, who you all have been talking about as a god. Long Xingnan's gentle face revealed a trace of terrifying killing intent at this moment. When the time comes, I'd like to see what kind of evil tricks he will use to break my supreme forbidden region. Her clear beautiful eyes were full of killing intent. Her voice was sonorous like the sound of a sword. She straightened her body and her whole person was like a peerless heavenly sword unsheathed, showing its sharpness as if it could cut through the heavens and sweep across thousands of worlds. Chapter 1357. But the next moment Long Xingnan picked up the teacup, took a sip and said with a smile, "As for what the Jade Lake will do, it's a subordinate world of the Western Desert after all. The Hylon world can't interfere. If you want to kill to vent your anger, I won't stop you." "Fairy Xingnan, what are you talking about? The Western Desert is already weak. What right do you have to order me around? I'll listen to all of your orders." Emperor Qinqing said politely and then smiled. "You're right, Fairy Xingnan. This time I'll cooperate with Kong Taichu. I heard that Kong Taichu has closed the portal to the Kanglan realm, Xia realm and Stellar Sky realm." Long Xingnan asked. I guess he's scared." Emperor Qinqing snorted and said with disdain, "This bastard sent a message saying that he will come to the Jade Lake within a month and fight with me to see who is better. He's talking big, but he's telling the truth. The portal to the three realms has been closed." Long Xingnan took a sip of tea, thought for a while and suddenly stood up and said, "How about this? Close the portal to the Jade Lake realm in the Kanglan realm, Xia realm and Stellar Sky realm. In this way he can only go to the Jade Lake through the Dragon Gate world. I'll go to the Dragon Gate world to kill him." Emperor Qinqing waved his hand and asked for all the information about Jiang Tian, including a vivid portrait. But he was still worried. "Fairy Xingnan, although Kong Taichu was born in a backward planet, he's unimaginably powerful. He can fight against a nascent soul realm cultivator as a golden core realm cultivator. Many people suspect that he's the reincarnation of a nascent soul realm cultivator or even a soul formation realm cultivator. You have to be careful." "Don't worry, uncle." Long Xingnan smiled and stepped out. She turned into a beam of golden light and flew toward the portal. "My sister is in his hands. I'll be careful and think of a foolproof plan. I won't act rashly." And Jiang Tian had come out of seclusion. There was a loud rumble. The warm jade spirit vein within a radius of 10 miles crumbled and turned into dust. The earth caved in crazily and huge ravines extended in all directions. The earth trembled as if it was about to crack open. Rumble. Divine General Gung Jin stood in the void with the sun and moon above his head. He was filled with the charm of eternal and unmoving laws. Even his outer appearance had changed significantly. He wore 12 crowns and a wide emperor's robe. He looked incomparably dignified. His eyes were like lightning and unstoppable. His feet seemed to be stepping on time, changing between time and space. The Gung metal godly body has finally reached perfection and evolved into the Golden Emperor immortal body. Jiang Tian let out a satisfied sigh. He opened his eyes wide and the divine light in his eyes seemed to be able to pierce through the sun and moon. "Kill." At this moment the Golden Emperor immortal body stepped forward. Dong. Beneath his feet, the void exploded and the ground caved in, forming a huge crater with a radius of 10 miles. A terrifying sharpness that could slash through the heavens and pierce through all worlds erupted from his body, instantly sweeping across the entire Chino world. At this instant the countless dangerous mountains and steep ridges within 50 kilometers were all slashed apart at the waist. Rumbling explosions resounded incessantly, and the entire continent seemed as if it was about to completely collapse. At this moment, countless beasts were frightened and frothed at the mouth. Their bodies twitched crazily. Many cultivators knelt on the ground and trembled. They said, "Long live the Heavenly Lord, long live the Lord." "Oh God." Bai Zai, Zhang Qianlei and Ding Lingdang were dumbfounded. At this time, Jiang Tian's divine body took a step forward and the power it displayed was 10 times more terrifying than Hu Shi's heavenly blade. Thanks to the time array disc and the elixirs Jiang Tian gave them, Bai Zai and Zhang Qianlei advanced rapidly. Bai Zai had already reached the first level of the nascent soul level and Zhang Qianlei had successfully formed a golden core. They felt that their strength had skyrocketed as if they had the help of God. They seemed to have the power to tear the sky and destroy the continent. But at this moment, facing the Golden Thearcha's immortal body, they felt like ants facing a mountain. They couldn't move Zhang Tian at all. What a terrifying nascent soul formation. Even a perfected nascent soul cultivator can't move such a terrifying nascent soul formation. Even Long Yanan was terrified and sucked in a breath of cold air. At this moment she felt that Qin Liuhe ancestral patriarch Binding Sun, Duanmu Guang and the others deserved to lose. Such a terrifying existence had never been heard of, even in the ruins of deity. Her sister, Long Xingnan, was extremely talented, but she wasn't even this terrifying when she formed her nascent soul. Only 10 miles were affected. Master still has a lot of spirit medicines and spirit pills. Why doesn't he break through to the nascent soul level immediately? He can already fight against nascent soul cultivators when he's at the first level of the Golden Core level. If he reaches the nascent soul level he won't even be afraid of the Ruins Emperor, right? This thought uncontrollably appeared in Lei Sen's mind, which frightened him. Not long ago in his mind even Emperor Qinqing was an unshakable existence, let alone the Ruins Emperor. But today he actually came up with such a crazy idea, like a mouse seriously considering how to kill a fierce tiger. How would he know? If Zhang Tian wanted to break through to the nascent soul level it would be extremely easy. But the formation of the 9 orifices divine infant was like the formation of the chaotic golden core. The conditions were extremely harsh. The 9 orifices divine infant had to be formed by breaking the core and forming the nascent soul with 9 supreme golden cores that had reached the nascent soul level. If Zhang Tian broke through to the nascent soul level with any of his divine bodies, he would have to stop his cultivation arts and drop his cultivation level to the nascent soul level before he could form the 9 orifices divine infant. Zhang Tian naturally would not do such a foolish thing. It was a strenuous and unrewarding task. Swish. Zhang Tian retracted his golden arch-immortal body and turned into a calm young man with an ordinary energy. He scanned his golden core divine disk with his immortal will. In the golden core of the chaotic divine disk, the dazzling galaxy that represented the gung metal divine body and the golden core was no longer illusory and ethereal. Moreover, the formation of the river of stars was no longer random and scattered. Instead, it formed a golden illusory image of an emperor. Layers of golden stars were embedded like rivets. They were like layers of dragon scales, forming a terrifying heavenly saber that the golden emperor held in his hand. The heavenly blade was unusually sharp, as if it could break the sun and the moon and pierce the sky. It represented the supreme golden laws of gung metal and turned into a true law seal. Good, good, good. Zhang Tian nodded and said, "The divine disk is done. The golden arch-immortal body has become the golden arch-immortal body and I've formed the nascent soul level. I finally built the first foundation for forming the 9 orifices divine infant. Master, you've broken through again." Then Ancestral Patriarch True Dragon and the other 4 cultivators flew over from the teleport array and exclaimed excitedly. Meanwhile, they all felt that the immortal and indestructible aura on Zhang Tian's body was more than 10 times stronger than before. Zhang Tian nodded slightly. Then his eyes flashed as he said with a smile, "Have you taken down the deep tide world? Master, we didn't disappoint you. We've taken it down. There's a 2nd-level nascent soul heavenly lord of fire from the Jade Lake. The 4 of us worked together to kill him." Ancestral Patriarch Lotus knelt on the ground and said. His chest was stained with blood. The inch-long wound still hadn't healed even now. There was a killing glyph formation flickering incessantly there. Boundless magic power was circulating, constantly opening up the wound. The remaining cultivators of the Kanglan world who surrendered to the Jade Lake were mostly Golden Core cultivators and Foundation Establishment cultivators. There were only a few Golden Core cultivators. We didn't encounter any resistance. On the other hand, Nether River's left arm had been burned dry, and his life force had been cut off. With ordinary healing pellets, it would take him at least 20 years to recover. We appeared as the reinforcements of the Taichu Dominator. The remaining overlords of the Kanglan world are grateful to the Taichu Dominator. The Emperor of the Kanglan dynasty, perfected immortal Wu Miao, hopes that the Taichu Dominator can visit the Kanglan world and preach. Ancestral Patriarch Takong's speed was the fastest in the world and he was the only one who wasn't injured. But when he recalled the terrifying power of the Heavenly Lord of Fire, he was still scared. It was the first time for the 4 ancestral patriarchs to fight against a nascent soul overlord. Now they truly understood the power of a nascent soul overlord. The heavenly lord of fire could control the fire of the 9 heavens and burn the sky. Ancestral patriarch Takong first used the concealment art taught by Zhang Tian to activate the Kuan-Ping bloodline and quickly sneak up on him, severely injuring his Dan Tian and leaving him half dead. Then the 4 of them attacked together. They still had to pay the price in blood. Although the 4 of them had experienced a hard battle and were severely injured, they smiled with satisfaction. Their hearts were full of pain as if they were drinking wine. They were arrogant and unruly, and had always been the rebels of the ruins of immortality. However, the difference in strength was too great, so they hid in the Thunderlock to avoid the world. They raised the Thunder Centipede Divine Beast, hoping to raise a peerless expert to attack them. They had always been angry. Now they could finally fight against the overlords of Jade Lake and kill a nascent soul overlord. It really made them feel very satisfied and happy. However, in addition to joy and satisfaction, their respect, admiration and fear for Zhang Tian were much stronger. They had all stepped into the first level of the nascent soul overlord, but the 4 of them still found it very difficult to kill a second-level nascent soul overlord. Zhang Tian was only at the first level of the Golden Core realm. Killing Duanmu Guang and the 4 nascent soul overlords was as easy as chopping vegetables. This allowed them to understand the huge gap between them and Zhang Tian. Instantly they felt as if they were looking up to a tall mountain, and feelings of admiration arose spontaneously. Zhang Tian asked the 4 of them to get up and looked at ancestral patriarch True Dragon with a frown. He smiled and said, "True Dragon, you don't seem happy. What's wrong?" "Master, I heard the news in the Kanglan world. The Dragon Gate world has been completely taken over by the overlords of Jade Lake and Hylon world. My children have been killed or exiled. They've completely withered away." True Dragon Patriarch said with tears in his eyes, his face full of anger and sorrow. "Since you're my servant, I have to protect the Dragon Gate world. Don't worry, I'll do it." Hearing that, Zhang Tian's eyes turned cold and a terrifying killing intent shot to the sky. The wind and clouds in 100-mile radius danced, and the terrifying energy made the earth tremble. Chapter 1358. Back then, ancestral patriarch True Dragon was the lord of the Dragon Gate world and was comparable to Emperor Qin in the ruins of deity system. However, he was rebellious and didn't want to serve the ruins emperor, so he hid in the Dragon Gate world. 1,000 years ago when he left, he wanted to take his son and many other descendants with him, but Ao Bo refused. Ancestral patriarch True Dragon left in anger and hadn't returned to the Dragon Gate world for 1,000 years. But now Ao Bo was facing a fatal disaster. Under the suppression of Hylon and Jade Lake, the True Dragon bloodline had withered. Back then, my useless son said that he stayed in the Dragon Gate to become the master of a world, not for fame and power, but to protect the roots of the True Dragon Ao family. I didn't believe him. But now I know I misunderstood him. Ancestral patriarch True Dragon said with tears in his eyes. At that time, the overlords of the ruins of deity and the Hylon world had invaded the Dragon Gate world for 1,000 years, and their rule was impregnable. Be it True Dragon or Ao Bo, they didn't have a chance to resist, and only death awaited them. Ao Bo's strategy was to surrender on the surface and not resist violently, but not cooperate when attacking the 4th-level dimensional world and repairing the ancient teleport array, to act as a buffer for the invasion of the ruins of deity. But this time Qin Bahuang, the special envoy of Jade Lake who was a half-heavenly lord, killed Ao Bo and replaced him with someone else. Then Sun Bojun, a special envoy of the Hylon world, also attacked and killed tens of thousands of cultivators of the Dragon Gate world, severely injuring the natives of the Dragon Gate world. Sun Bojun used to belong to the sea monsters. He was talented and powerful, but he was only a golden core cultivator back then, and I injured him with one attack. The old man left after signing a contract with him to guarantee the independence of the Dragon Gate world. I didn't expect him to go back on his words. Ancestral patriarch True Dragon gritted his teeth and said, "When you were around they kept their promise. But you disappeared for a few hundred years, so it's normal for them to break the contract. The point is that the Ao family blocked their way to attack Earth." After Zhang Tian finished speaking, he slowly closed his eyes. When he opened them again, they were already cold. "How about the teleportation formation to the Jade Lake?" It's been shut down. Bai Zhe rolled his eyes and said gloomily, I wanted to conquer the Sea of Stars. Killing my way to the Jade Lake was the first step. Who would have thought that after activating the teleportation array several times, there would be no reaction at all? Qingdi is so cunning. But the teleportation portal to the Dragon Gate world is still open. Hearing this, Long Yanan's eyes flashed with a cold light. She seemed to have sensed something, but she immediately lowered her head to hide it. This is a trap. Jiang Tian turned his head and glanced at her. He pondered for a moment and then sneered. There must be experts from Hailan World and Jade Lake World waiting for us to enter the Dragon Gate world. However, this time we know that there are tigers on the mountain, but we still want to go to the mountain. Lianxing, you will oversee the Qiyi, Zhonglan and Tianxing worlds. Jiang Tian said coldly with a murderous look on his face. Ta Kong, Mingyi, Zhenlong and the Black Dog come with me to the Dragon Gate world. If the Dragon Gate world is lost, I'm afraid it won't be long before Yingzhou, Baiming and Pinglai worlds are taken down. Ta Kong came from Pinglai world and had the bloodline of the Kun Peng. He was the overlord of the Ta Kong mountain, while Mingyi old ancestor came from the Netherworld sect in Baiming. Both of them were famous figures and traders of the ruins of immortality. Jiang Tian planned to push them to become the masters of their respective dimensional worlds this time, turning these four-dimensional worlds and even the Hailan world into a strong fortress to guard Earth. Bai Zhe frowned and shouted anxiously, Brother Taichu, how can you conquer the Sea of Stars without me? Even a beast like the big black dog can go, so why can't I? The black dog said gloomily, how can you discriminate against me? I have the bloodline of the dragon race, so I should go to the Dragon Gate world to be respected. Zhang Qianlei also said with a murderous aura, Jiang Tian, you can't not bring me. The Jade Lake world killed countless disciples of the Imperial Thunder sect. I want to settle the score with them. Even Ding Lingdang said that she wanted to go. Her cultivation was not high, so she could only say that she wanted to take care of Jiang Tian's life. Long Yanan showed a smug smile as if Jiang Tian was walking into a trap and would definitely die. Jiang Tian raised his hand and slapped her, causing her nose to bleed. He sneered. Ding Lingdang, the chaos in the Qi Field and Kanglan worlds has just ended. I still need your help to rebuild. With this servant taking care of my life, everything will be fine. As for Bai Zhe and Qianlei, follow me. The Qi Field world was not conducive to Zhang Qianlei's cultivation. Although Jiang Tian had taught him the technique of generating electricity out of thin air, and he had advanced several levels, Jiang Tian thought that it would be better to bring him to the Dragon Gate world, which was filled with dense clouds and abundant water vapor. If you dare to make a mistake, I'll just kill you. The large black dog looked at Long Yanan, took out a small booklet and began to write and draw on it. He laughed and said, Don't think that the Dragon Gate can save you. Recently, I've been writing a book on human pets, specifically to keep cultivators like you who abuse the demon race as pets. He did not have a good impression of Long Yanan. The techniques of the Dragon Gate were used to kill and restrain flood dragons, yellow dragons and other dragon-type monsters. Many of Long Yanan's accessories and magic tools were made from dragon bones and dragon teeth. After the discussion, Jiang Tian immediately prepared to set off to check the teleportation formation. The Qi Field world was also the territory of the Dragon Gate world. The teleportation formation to the Dragon Gate world had always been open. These days there had been refugees from the Qi Field world who did not accept Jiang Tian's rule going to the Dragon Gate world. Jiang Tian allowed them to do as they pleased. They only needed to pay a certain amount of crystal stones, all for today. The Dragon Gate world was the same as the Jade Pool. It had completely left the solar system and reached the outer region of the Southern Gate Double Star region. This teleportation formation was different from the ones from Earth to the fourth level world or between the fourth level worlds. It was a large-scale teleportation formation. The teleportation disk was like a huge stone platform with a majestic aura. It had a radius of 10 miles and was engraved with many profound and complicated runes. These runes came from the hands of the ancient powerhouses. This was the legacy left behind by the Qing and Ao sovereigns. It was completed before they wandered the universe. On it there were ancient bronze warships or disc-shaped flying objects. They were covered in green bronze and even mottled with moss. They were very ancient and had not been used for a long time. On this day, a group of people landed on the ancient teleportation formation. Jiang Tian was dressed in a white robe. His black hair was tied up with a golden crown. He appeared with a folding fan in his hand. He looked like an elegant young master. Azure Dragon, Mingi and Ta Kong were dressed in green and wore small hats. They looked like loyal old servants. Long Yanan had also washed away her impurities. She was dressed in plain clothes and looked down. She looked like a servant who had been bullied. She gritted her teeth and glared at Jiang Tian fiercely. Bai Zhe took off his feathered robe and star crown. He was dressed as a page boy. He frowned and rolled his eyes. He was very unhappy with his appearance. However, for his long-cherished wish to go to the Starry Sea, he could only bear with it. This time, in order to avoid alerting the enemy and to take the initiative, Jiang Tian and the others disguised themselves. They entered the Dragon Gate world as a fallen young master from a large cultivation sect in the Qi field world. Only a return to void stage or Dao integration stage cultivator can create an interstellar teleportation formation. The Qing Emperor and the other ancestors were very impressive. I wonder if the Qing Emperor and the others had thought of this day when they built the teleportation formation. Jiang Tian looked around. He had a lot of emotions in his eyes. The ancient ancestors like the Qing Emperor and the Ao Emperor couldn't move the deity ground, the islands and the ancient earths together. They could only use the teleportation formations separately. However, they hoped that the descendants of the ancient earths would still be an inseparable whole even if they wandered to the outer realms. So, they built the teleportation formations so that they could communicate with each other. However, they didn't expect the ruins of deity and the multidimensional worlds to be invaded by the ruins emperor. They also didn't expect that tens of thousands of years later, a group of roots from the abandoned earth would rise to the sky and help them reclaim their homeland. These roots and veins were like sparks of fire. They rose with the light, but they were like inextinguishable kindling. The kindling ignited the grass ignited the shrubs and the shrubs spread to the big trees. In the end, this tiny kindling would set off a prairie fire, illuminating the entire dark universe forest and illuminating the myriad worlds. In the eyes of the spectators, the spatial passageway was extremely majestic. Of course, the energy crystals needed for each teleportation were also massive. Jiang Tian was now the ruler of this world. With an order, he should have the power to topple mountains and overturn seas. All kinds of precious crystals filled the teleportation formations and activated them. Absolute Primordium Ruler, take care. Ding Lai, Jiang Yunhe, the leaders of the Stellar Sky Domain, the leaders of the major sects and families in the Qia world, and even the special envoys from the Kanglan world all came to see him off. Ding Lai's eyes were solemn. Ding Lingdong's eyes were also filled with tears. Her body was trembling. This was the first time since Jiang Tian returned that he had traveled through space across galaxies. He had traversed billions of miles, a distance of 4 light-years, and finally arrived at the outer region of the Southern Gate twin stars. The future was boundless, full of dangers and the unknown. Jiang Tian was originally a human from Earth. However, he was risking his life today to fight for Earth and for them. Absolute Primordium Ruler, don't worry. We'll protect the 3-dimensional worlds and be the last fortress of Earth. Jiang Yunhe had been tempered by the flames of war and had become deep and strong. He waved his hand and said. Jiang Tian glanced at the crowd and said with a faint smile, I'm sorry. Don't worry. I won't return until I slay the Ruins Emperor. In 3 years this battle will end. This star domain will be peaceful for thousands of years. The first step to conquering the Sea of Stars has finally been taken today. Bai Zhe calmed his emotions. He wasn't afraid. Instead, his eyes were filled with anticipation and excitement. He rubbed his palms and was eager to try. Chapter 1359. It was Bai Zhe's first time walking out of this world and it was his first step out of the solar system. It would be strange if he wasn't excited. We're going on our way. The large black dog shouted excitedly. We're going to the Dragon Gate Hylon and the Ruins of Immortality. I'm going to take the Azure the Arch as my pet, the Ruins Emperor as my mount, and eat 10,000 golden cores to grow fat. Everyone walked into a space aircraft that looked like a flying saucer. Only Jiang Tian was left outside. He scanned the people who were sending him off and smiled. Fellow Taoists, I'll leave Earth to you. At this moment he actually felt a little reluctant. He was from Earth, but he had formed deep friendships with many cultivators from Stellar Sky Domain. Many cultivators from Stellar Sky Domain were like the humans on Earth. They were full of iron and blood and fought for freedom. They were unwilling to be slaves or servants. No matter how high or low their cultivation was, Xianxia would not look down on them because of that. Without their protection, Earth might have been lost long ago. Take me with you. Don't go, big brother Jiang. Qiao Yingluo cried out in tears, but she was forcefully dragged away by Qiao Beishan. Qiao Beishan's eyes were slightly red as he said seriously, besides, the stinky monkey Jiang Haishan, goddess Miyu, and so many other Taoists died under the Jade Pool's cannon fire. The Grand Primordium ruler is going to take revenge for them. Using martial arts to stop killing, using killing to stop war. The Grand Primordium ruler is doing this to prevent billions of lives from being destroyed. His merit is boundless. Zen Master Dixin was no longer as skinny as before. He had already become fat and his body was huge. His expression was compassionate and his appearance was solemn. After experiencing the cruel war, the suppression of his sect and the betrayal of his friends, he seemed to have been reborn. His Buddhist heart was even firmer and his state of mind was more peaceful. His understanding of Buddhism had also reached a new level. He already had the bearing of a great master and was the #1 leader of the Buddhist sects in the 3 realms. Big brother Jiang is taking the initiative to attack for the safety of this world. Besides, he can't go any further in these worlds. Beside him, Fairy Miao Yi also comforted him gently. Her eyes were very calm, hiding the reluctance in her heart. If Jiang Tian wanted to complete the 9 transformations of the divine disc and form the nascent soul, he would need a lot of resources. These 4th-level dimensional worlds, and even the world of Earth with its spirit chi recovery, could no longer support Jiang Tian's cultivation. The spirit chi and resources were far from enough. But when she turned her head away, tears were already flowing down her cheeks. Jiang Tian was her beautiful dream. Once upon a time she was deeply in love with Jiang Tian. However, Jiang Tian already had a Dao companion, and by a freak combination of factors, he was destined to have no fate with her in this lifetime. She now understood that she wasn't worthy of Jiang Tian, so she hid this admiration in the depths of her heart. Sigh, what a pity. The flames of war were in full swing ahead. Time waited for no one. I can't even return to Earth to say goodbye to Qing'er and Bei. Looking at the blue planet outside the strict world membrane, Jiang Tian revealed a look of deep longing and reluctance. Then, his eyes were filled with boundless determination as he stepped into the disc-shaped flying device. Scarlet Field Galaxy Teleportation Array, Power Array Pattern Detected, no cracks. Scarlet Field Galaxy Teleportation Array, Teleportation Coordinates Detected, no errors. Scarlet Field Galaxy Teleportation Array, S. Expedition Space Flying Device, no errors. The heroes of Heavenly Star, Songlan and Scarlet Field, the leaders of many great sects and powerful countries, and the heads of various sects and clans were all standing around the teleportation array. Their expressions were solemn as they looked at the disc-shaped flying device with reverence. In the entire Universal Pier, the powerful voice of an array master could be heard from the teleportation array platform. Scarlet Field Galaxy Teleportation Array, ignited for the 198th time, teleporting to the Dragon Gate world. Activate the reaction furnace, ignite. Following the last calm and indifferent voice of the Scarlet Field Engineering Department official, the 55 reaction furnaces were fully activated. Immediately, many runes on the teleportation array platform lit up dazzlingly, as if a sun had risen out of thin air. All of the world-breaking and advancement arrays were activated at the same time. The gigantic bronze disc-shaped space-flying device slowly rose into the sky as a heart-palpitating power was emitted, causing the space to fluctuate violently. At this moment, everyone felt their vision turn black as their senses were completely shut off. They lost all sound, senses and colors. Between heaven and earth, only the dazzling teleportation array platform and the small black dot above it remained, the disc-shaped flying device. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. When the light of the teleportation array platform gradually disappeared, everyone saw the final shocking scene. At that moment the world was in chaos, the mountains and rivers were boiling, the light of the stars and the sun was distorted, and the world barrier that was originally suspended high up in the sky seemed to be pulled infinitely closer by the teleportation array platform. An extremely thin and long spike caved in inwards, touching the bronze disc-shaped space-flying device. This spike was crystal clear, one end wrapped around the bronze flying device, and the other end extended towards the vast starry sky and the deep universe. Even with Lotus Life Tathagata's nascent soul divine sense, he still couldn't scan the end as if it was endless and boundless. This is the world whole. It belongs to the same substance as the space barrier and the world membrane, and it binds the world membrane of the two worlds together. Lotus Life Tathagata's face was shocked as he said in a solemn voice. Suddenly there was a whoosh. The inwardly sunken world membrane, like a fully drawn bow, quickly bounced back. The bronze flying device was like an arrow that had left the bow, shooting straight into the sky and suddenly disappearing from everyone's sight. He's gone. After all, he doesn't belong to this world. Qiao Yingluo's body stiffened as she looked up at the world barrier that had already returned to normal. Her tears surged as she said in a daze. No. He will always belong to this world. No matter how far he goes, the Earth domain and the stellar sky domain will always be the places he dreams of, his foundation and homeland. Beside her, Fairy Miao Yi gently advised as if comforting herself. Whoosh. In the depths of the universe hundreds of millions of miles away from the star world, there was no moonlight in the distance and the stars were shining brightly. Nearby, however, there was only loneliness and coldness. All of a sudden, a blue ray of light flashed past. This green light was surrounded by a translucent tunnel like a glass tube. However, as the green light flashed, the translucent tunnel suddenly disappeared, as if it had never existed. The South Gate star field was the closest star system to the solar system. There were no other stars between the two, only endless darkness, dried-up asteroids and meteorites of all sizes. In the process of passing through the world whole, the flow of time was very distorted and chaotic. Sometimes it was just a few seconds, but it felt like a century had passed so long that it was maddening. Sometimes, it was indescribably fast, as if 100 years had passed in a hurry. This was a lonely universe shuttling between two star systems. There was no sound at all, and it was so quiet that it was maddening. Everyone could only communicate with their divine senses and encourage each other. Sometimes, when passing through some areas with abnormal gravitational fields, even their divine senses would be cut off and weakened. What's that? There was a patch of chaos in front of them. It was misty, as if a glass of expired milk had been poured on top of pearl-like velvet. Bai Zai's divine senses swept over and could not help but be amazed. Interstellar dust belt. We're not far from the Dragon Gate world or the South Gate star field. Jiang Tian had actually discovered this before Bai Zai. This dust belt was very vast and there was no need to use divine senses at all. Could be seen through the crystal window with the naked eye. The so-called dust belt was the remains of solid matter that had not yet formed into a celestial body the size of a planet. It was made up of a large number of rocks, ice, mixtures, dust particles and so on. From the smallest dust particle to a few kilometers in diameter asteroids, everything was in it. This dust belt was discovered by the ALMA Observatory in Chile on Earth last year using the world's most expensive astronomical radio telescope. According to scientists' observations, this dust belt was 1 light-year away from the South Gate star field. Its total mass was about 1% of Earth's mass, and its temperature was about -230 degrees Celsius. It could be imagined as the Kuiper belt outside the solar system. The solar system was only 4 light-years away from the South Gate star field, which was equivalent to more than half of the interstellar journey. What's this? Suddenly Jiang Tian was shocked. Thousands of neatly arranged hollow marks appeared in an area of the dust belt, like sharp swords pointing in the direction of the solar system. Are these traces caused by human travel? Jiang Tian's eyes widened, and there was a trace of inexplicable uneasiness in his heart. For example, this dust belt was like a snowy land and aircraft were like pedestrians. Once they passed through, they would leave footprints. Could it be that after we closed the world hole, the South Gate star field started to not use the world hole, but a more primitive, simpler and violent method of interstellar travel to advance towards Earth? Jiang Tian's eyes flickered as he imprinted the situation of these interstellar dust ribbons deeply into his mind and murmured with his divine sense. What should we do? Hearing this, everyone was shocked and their divine senses trembled. Ordinary people, even astrophysicists, would find it unbelievable. However, as long as they reached 1% of the speed of light, it would only take them 400 years to travel across the two galaxies with their physical body. And the lifespan of a soul formation cultivator could reach 5,000 years or even longer. They could totally afford it. Besides, the cultivation world had many methods to condense blood and stop lifespan, petrify, and hibernate. They could also use flying Dharma artifacts. Also, it was impossible to determine when the traces on these dust belts were made. If they were made hundreds, thousands, or even tens of thousands of years ago, Earth could be in danger at any time. Chapter 1360. After all, Earth had just recovered its spirit chi. Only nascent soul cultivator Lian Xing was guarding the area. The rest were all golden core and false core cultivators. In the immortal ruins, there were countless nascent soul cultivators, soul formation cultivators, and even more ancient beings. They weren't even on the same level. It was like a 3-year-old fighting against Mike Tyson. How could they not be frightened? How could they not be worried? I've never noticed those dust belts either. I used to travel through the world passage. Ancestral Patriarch True Dragon and the others were confused and shocked. Although they lived in the dimension of the South Gate binary star system, they knew nothing about that. Jiang Tian turned a deaf ear to it and fell into deep thought. What was the Ruins Emperor planning? Why were they eyeing Earth covetously? The arrival of the ancient deities, the beginning of interstellar wandering, the Ruins Emperor's invasion of the deity ground, and the arrival of the white-robed deity 30 years ago, and the fiend fetus being conceived were just occasional occurrences, or were they closely related to each other? Was it a scheme set up by someone behind the scenes? Jiang Tian looked at the dust belts with deep eyes as if he were looking at fog. There are two sides to this. We have to be calm. After we reach the immortal ruins, everything will be revealed one day. In the end, Jiang Tian comforted everyone and put those thoughts behind him. In his previous life, after Jiang Tian became a soul formation cultivator, he had used a flying ship given to him by his master to break through space and return to Earth. Although Earth had gone through some twists and turns back then and there had been a few technological explosions, at least it was still in a safe state and hadn't reached the point of civilization destruction. Jiang Tian's return in this life might have triggered some butterfly effects, but those changes were limited to Earth and a few low-level dimensions. They didn't extend beyond the stellar system and weren't enough to change the trajectory of interstellar history. It seems that we're about to enter the boundary of another world. After some time, Jiang Tian suddenly said in a deep voice. In front of them, the void was shaking violently and the world passage was mottled. All kinds of colors flickered dreamily. The runes inside the flying saucer flickered violently, releasing thousands of rays of light and auspicious colors as if it were about to collapse. Everyone also felt the extreme distortion and pulling force of the space, as if it was about to fall apart. Master, lay down the myriad stone cauldron. The true dragon ancestor warned with experience. Yes. Jiang Tian's eyes flashed and he summoned the myriad stone cauldron, causing it to float in the air. In an instant, countless strands of the primordial chaos aura descended like threads, and it firmly enveloped all of them as a precaution. It's the Dragon Gate world. True Dragon Patriarch's voice was choked with emotion. After thousands of years, he'd finally returned to his homeland. He was overwhelmed with emotions and he was unable to express them with words. How could he not be excited and emotionally moved? Everyone looked over in shock. At the edge of a vast and desolate galaxy, a vast and wondrous world could be seen from afar. This world was extremely vast, with a radius of at least tens of thousands of miles. It was actually a body of water that floated in the desolate universe. Flood dragons, sea snakes, and other huge sea beasts were swimming in the vast ocean. There were many strange peaks that protruded above the water surface, forming many deity islands. These islands were scattered all over the place and they were steep and strange. Vast and bright essence chi gushed out, and spirit springs fell like waterfalls. Clouds were rising, and in the foggy spirit chi, there were spirit beasts flying and beasts roaring. There were even cultivators flying across the sky on their swords from time to time. The spirit chi here is much denser than in our 4th-level dimension. True Dragon, how could you bear to leave? Bai Zhe exclaimed with a yearning look on his face. Arriving in this world meant that they had stepped out of the solar system and belonged to the Southern Gate star system. It was the first step to conquering the Sea of Stars, which made him very excited. True Dragon Patriarch was speechless and looked sad. Things had changed. His dynasty had been destroyed and his descendants had been killed or exiled. It was a great sorrow to see his children die before him. At that moment he regretted not running away. He should have stayed in this world and fought the Ruins Emperor and Azure the Archon to the death. Boom. Boom. The flying saucer shook violently and shattered into countless pieces by the gravity of the world membrane. Everyone felt their vision darken as the scenery before them changed rapidly. When the scenery stabilized, they realized that they had landed on a desolate island. Where is this? Baizé looked around. The stars were bright and there was no moon. The island was more than 10 miles wide and it was empty. Only the roars of low-level beasts could be heard from afar. The grass nearby swayed and there were butterflies the size of wash basins dancing. Their bronze flying saucer had shattered into pieces and fallen into the sea. This is Butterfly Island. The spirit chi is lacking and there are many beasts. It's desolate and uninhabited. However, the nearest flourishing island, Kun Sky Island, is only a few hundred miles away. We will know the situation of this world if we go there. True Dragon Patriarch knew the way and said in a deep voice. Kun Sky Island was one of the 7 core islands of the Dragon Gate world. It was also one of the 7 major cities of the True Dragon dynasty. With this island as the foundation, a magnificent and prosperous Kun Sky City was built. In this Kun Sky City, there was a famous royal chamber of commerce, the Cape Chamber of Commerce. It specialized in providing cultivation and daily necessities and treasures to the Ao family. Its president was Zhou Xian. He had reached the early stage golden core hundreds of years ago and was a peer of True Dragon Patriarch. He was his childhood friend and was very loyal and reliable. Let's go. If the Zhou Xian you mentioned is still here, then we will soon find out the current situation. Jiang Tian nodded. As he spoke, he turned into a dazzling golden rainbow and soared into the sky. None of the soldiers Jiang Tian brought with him this time were weak. They were all at the nascent soul realm and their flying speed was extremely fast. They could easily break through several times the speed of sound. This was the result of Jiang Tian and the others deliberately suppressing their cultivation in order to not attract attention. Several rays of multicolored light left long afterimages on the surface of the sea. They cut through the waves and streaked across the sky, heading toward Kun Tian Island. Soon, everyone arrived above Kun Sky Island. What a dreamlike city. The city spanned 50 kilometers. The roof was as huge as a mountain and was made of seashells, clam shells, and turtle shells. Most of the pillars were made of coral and embedded with basketball-sized pearls that emitted a gentle glow. On the streets, wine flags were waved and the lights were dazzling. Shrimp soldiers, shrimp generals, and fish-headed sea demons of all shapes and sizes walked, chatted, traded, and drank. It was terrifying yet adorable. If not for seeing it with one's own eyes, one would probably think it was a fairy tale world. The Dragon Gate world was originally dominated by the sea demons. To be precise, it was ruled by the sea flood dragons. The sea demons outnumbered humans by 10 times. But now, the ratio of humans seemed to be higher. However, many of these humans were not humans from ancient Earth. Instead, they were likely from the twin stars of the South Gate. They had high noses and deep eyes. Their hair was purple or green and their eyes were deeper and colder. They should be the descendants of the Ruins Emperor. They have been in this world for many years. They have slowly infiltrated and are evolving peacefully. They want to dilute the bloodline of the sea demons. Eventually, this will be the Ruins Emperor's world. Jiang Tian's gaze was fixed as he sighed softly. The Ruins of Immortality was not a militaristic place. It also knew some conciliatory methods. Patriarch True Dragon and Old Black, follow me. The rest of you spread out to various parts of the city and gather information. The more the better. Take note. It's not the time for the final battle yet. It's best to kill fewer people to avoid attracting attention. Jiang Tian ordered. Yes. Ta Kong, Mingyi, and Baizé cupped their fists respectfully and dispersed silently. Jiang Tian, the big black dog, and Patriarch True Dragon escorted Long Yanan and flew towards the Kun Sky City's City Lord Manor. However, halfway there Jiang Tian and True Dragon frowned. They saw that the surroundings of the Cape trading firm were heavily guarded. Sounds of fighting and killing could be heard from inside. Above Kun Sky City, Cape Trading Firm Headquarters. Bang. Two Dharma forms exchanged blows quickly. The power was astonishing. The moment one of the Dharma powers of the giant crab was destroyed, a man with a head full of white hair retreated rapidly, clutching his chest. Blood oozed out of his mouth, and the shadow of a giant crab appeared around him. It was obvious that he was barely holding on by burning his blood. Opposite him, a handsome but sinister-looking young man was about to follow up with another attack. Xianxia, stop. Below, a woman cried out in heartache. After hearing this, the handsome young man sighed helplessly and said, "Since Tingran has spoken, I'll spare your life." A trace of greed flashed in his eyes. He smiled at Tingran and said, "Tingran, have you changed your mind and are willing to marry me? In your dreams. I won't go with you even if you beat me to death." Tingran shouted with a cold expression. Then her eyes turned red. She looked at the tall young man beside her with tears in her beautiful eyes and said, "Huang Jing, could it be that you've also joined the dogs of the below world?" The tall young man Huang Jing looked ashamed, but when he thought of Xianxia's strength, he hardened his heart. "Miss Xia, the true Dragon AO family is completely finished. Why are you still stubbornly resisting?" "We didn't resist." At this moment Xie Yan steadied himself and said angrily, "I'm just returning home. I'm just going to retire and return to my hometown. I'm just going to resign and become a commoner. But the ocean cover swordsman Sun Bojun forced me to be the city lord. Otherwise he would kill my family. He's gone too far. Senior Xia, please show some respect. Sun Bojun is the imperial advisor of the Wanhai Empire. He's only below one person and above everyone else. What right do you have to call him by his name?" Xianxia's face turned cold. He shouted harshly. "Moreover, Imperial Advisor Sun asked you to be an official because he gave you face. But you didn't know how to appreciate his kindness and spoke rudely. If I don't kill you, who will I kill? Imperial Advisor Sun gave you many resources and techniques and even promoted you. He said all kinds of nice things, but you're still stubborn. If I don't kill you, who will I kill?" Chapter 1361. I'd rather die than be a slave to a fallen country. Xie Yan shouted angrily. This world belongs to the AO family of the true dragon. It's also the roots of the AO emperor. Tens of thousands of years ago, the AO emperor led the ancestors to fight against the ruins of immortality and shed their blood. 1,000 years ago, the true dragon patriarch AO Feng fell into an unknown world and cut ties with the ruins of immortality. As their descendants and people, we should respect the spirit of the ancestors and draw a line between us and trash like Sun Bojun. We should fight to the death with Hailon and the ruins of immortality. However, your Sha family was once an important official under the true dragon patriarch. Your bloodline was stimulated by the true dragon patriarch and your cultivation techniques were bestowed by him. Yet you were ungrateful and attacked the patriarch's descendant, becoming the disciple of the patriarch's enemy, Sun Bojun. This old man has never seen someone as shameless as you. Bullshit. Xianxia interrupted with a sneer. Who is the true dragon patriarch? He's been dead for 1,000 years. Even his bones have melted. Who knows him? How dare you call me shameless? Old bastard, you've successfully infuriated me. Originally, I wanted to spare your life for Tingran's sake. But since you're so stubborn, I'll kill you. I'll make Xia Tingran the lowest servant and torture her every day. Xianxia, you're lying. The true dragon patriarch won't die. He'll definitely come back and avenge us. Xie Yan shouted angrily as he clutched his chest and spat out blood. I'm lying. Xianxia's face was full of mockery. You only know that Ao Feng went into seclusion. But do you know where he has gone? Ao Feng entered the Luai's realm through the Gate of Destinies. My ancestors saw it with their own eyes. And a year ago we found Ao Wushuang's corpse in there. Although Ao Wushuang wasn't a direct descendant, he was still Ao Feng's descendant. If he was still alive, how could he sit back and watch his son be killed? He would either die in the mouth of Lei Meng or pass away in that chaotic realm. In short, there is no possibility of him returning. With every word Xianxia spoke, Xie Yan and Xie Tingran's faces grew paler. By the time he finished speaking, their faces were as white as paper and filled with despair. Huang Jing also sighed and tried to persuade him. Her words were sincere. Ancestor, young miss, today is different from usual. The emissary of the Below Sea world took action to suppress them. The true dragon bloodline has been severed. Our world is in a precarious situation. Everyone has to forget the past and look to the future. I'm told that a lot of nascent soul stage cultivators and nascent soul stage cultivators have been sent to suppress and screen them one last time. Stubbornness will only lead to death. Xia Tingran lowered her head and didn't say a word. She bit her lip with her snow-white teeth, almost bleeding. At this moment Xianxia sighed and softened his tone. Tingran, I also know that a forcibly picked melon is not sweet. As long as Senior Xie Yan agrees to take the position of City Lord, I will no longer force you. In the future I will only care for you like an older brother. What do you think? Xie Yan clutched his dantian with a look of despair. Xianxia's cultivation was originally much lower than his, but after receiving benefits from Jade Lake and Below Sea World, his cultivation had risen steadily. He was now at the peak stage of the Golden Core stage. Xie Yan, the servants and guards of his family were definitely not his match. Forget it. Forget it. I'll fight to the death with him and let Tingran escape. The Xia family is full of heroes. How can I give myself to an evil person like Jade Lake and Below Sea World? With that thought, Xie Yan swallowed a healing pill. Determination appeared in his eyes. He wasn't afraid of death. At this moment, a cold voice suddenly sounded. Who said I died in the Thunderlock realm? Everyone looked up and saw. An old man in an old green robe with horns on his head and a pair of clear eyes was flying over. Behind him was a young man in luxurious clothes, holding a folding fan in his hand, and looking carefree and even sloppy. There was also a young woman in the prime of her youth who looked aggrieved and timid. Everyone's expression changed when they saw the old man. Who is he? Huang Jing blurted out with a panicked expression. Xianxia's expression changed drastically. His eyes were filled with extreme shock. You're finally back. Xie Yan, who was clutching his chest, burst into tears. He struggled to fall to the ground and kowtowed to the true dragon ancestor. Get up. Patriarch True Dragon stood proudly in the air, his expression dark. The entire City Lord Manor was filled with blood and corpses. It was filled with a cruel and murderous aura. More than half of Xie Yan's family had been killed. The rest had become Xianxia's captives and were controlled and guarded by cultivators. True Dragon, it seems that the world has changed greatly in the 1,000 years you were gone. Jiang Tian looked at the cultivators behind Xianxia with interest. They were all wearing robes with a ripple pattern embroidered on their chests. The ripple formed a giant hand holding a dragon. It was the symbol of the Dragon Gate cultivators in the Below Sea world. But now they were standing behind Xianxia to deal with the Dragon Gate. Master, it's the old man's fault. I shouldn't have placed my hopes on Lei Meng and avoided the world. I should have guarded this place without fear of death. Patriarch True Dragon's face reddened. Under the shocked gazes of the crowd, he bowed deeply to Jiang Tian and said respectfully, Master, please rest for a while. I'll ask about the current situation after I clean up the sect. Go. Since you're my servant, this world should be my territory. If someone is too strong for you, I'll help them. Jiang Tian landed on the roof of a hall and sat down lazily. He took out the Thunderfire wine and took a sip. Young master, please enjoy. Long Yanan, on the other hand, was like the most considerate servant girl. She arranged the dishes and stood behind Jiang Tian. What's going on? What kind of status and strength does this old man have? Why is he so respectful to this young man? Who is he? Xianxia was puzzled. Xia Tingran's mind was also in a mess. This young man didn't release any magic power. He either has a noble status or is skilled in concealing his aura. In short, our Dragon Gate world has hope again. Xie Yan's eyes shone brightly as he glanced at Jiang Tian. He clenched his fists and became spirited. Then he spoke with his spiritual sense. Patriarch Xianxia is also involved in Aobo's death. Kill him. Xianxia, back then you and your family received a lot of favors from me. Back then you and your family swore to be loyal to the Ao family and fight for the Dragon Gate world forever. But you repaid kindness with enmity and attacked the Ao family. You kill yourself to atone for your sins. Patriarch True Dragon roared angrily, his eyes almost dripping blood. True Dragon, I respect you, so I call you senior. If I don't respect you, you're just a pile of old bones that should be stuffed into a coffin. What right do you have to ask me to kill myself? Xianxia waved his sleeves and stood with his hands behind his back. His face was cold and his eyes were full of disdain. He said, "Let me give you a piece of advice. If you know what's good for you, you'd better surrender and apologize to the imperial advisor. If you repent sincerely and become a slave forever, you might be able to keep your life." He had also carefully observed Patriarch True Dragon's cultivation. The powerful Patriarch True Dragon seemed to be only at the Foundation establishment level. He must have been injured in the dangerous Thunderlock world and his cultivation fell. Therefore he didn't take Patriarch True Dragon seriously. Die. The True Dragon Patriarch was so angry that he was about to explode. Suddenly he straightened his back and his essence chi surged. He went from Foundation establishment to Golden Core, late stage Golden Core, nascent soul, and so on. At this moment the sky changed color and the stars turned upside down. In his dantian, the dragon-shaped nascent soul roared and turned into a dragon god 100 feet tall with a dragon head and a human body. He slapped down with a sharp bone hook and a giant palm covered in dragon scales. What? He's a nascent soul cultivator. Xianxia was terrified. Before he could unleash half of his Dharma form, it was crushed by Patriarch True Dragon's palm. Then even his body and golden core were crushed. Before he died, he was still in disbelief, as if he had never thought that he would die in the hands of a true dragon. Nascent soul. Whether it was Huang Jing, the other Dragon Gate cultivators, or even the Hylon cultivators, they were all shocked to see this. Xianxia was the son of the giant Shark King and had been taught by overlords like Sun Bojun. However, he couldn't even withstand one attack from Patriarch True Dragon. How could they not be afraid? Only Xie Yan and Xie Tingran were elated. Patriarch True Dragon, please spare our lives. This was all ordered by the giant Shark King. We were just following orders. We didn't have the power to resist. The cultivators of Dragon Gate were scared out of their wits. They knelt down and begged for mercy. In fact, we have been waiting for your return. You were just pretending to be nice to him to preserve your strength. Now that you are back and have reached the nascent soul level, you can take back this world with a snap of your fingers. We are willing to follow you and kill the traitors like the Black Shark King Sun Bojun and the other cultivators of Jade Lake. We will make a contribution and shed our last drop of blood for the Dragon Gate world. Some of the cultivators of Dragon Gate said shamelessly and flew to Ao Feng like slaves meeting their master. The Dragon Blade Hall is the elite of the Dragon Gate dynasty. Without the orders of the Realm Lord, you can't command them. Sha Shouzhui is just the Lord of the Seven Islands. Why do you have to listen to him? You are just a coward. The True Dragon Patriarch was enraged. He killed until his eyes turned red and he smashed dozens of cultivators into pieces with a single palm. Jiang Tian finally noticed that the cultivators were carrying dragon-shaped sabers on their backs and wearing flying dragon robes. He thought that the Dragon Blade Hall was probably a special force like the Imperial Secret Service that only answered to the Ao family and the Emperor. Run. When the remaining cultivators saw that he had gone mad, they knew that it was useless to beg for mercy, so they no longer begged for mercy. They stepped on their swords and turned around. Like a heavenly maiden scattering flowers, they fled in all directions like meteors. The True Dragon Patriarch was enraged. His body shook, and hundreds of basin-sized dragon scales shot out in all directions like shrapnel, spinning and slicing toward Yiqingyu. You're tuning in to the Zhou Xian's Legacy YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.